What is poppin', y'all? Welcome to the first episode of the Thoughts and Takes podcast, hosted by myself, DeAndre, and my friend Jacob Janelle in the building. This podcast is basically where we go through sports, news, culture, everything that's going down in today's world, from the people, for the people, by the people. And I'm going to let Jacob round me out.
And we are not here to chase hot takes or repeat headlines. We start with how people really feel about a story and why it's hitting the way it is. Sometimes the popular narrative, it makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't. But either way, we're going to talk about it, honestly. This is a real conversation, no debate. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. But it always stays authentic and grounded in real life. It is something that if the people are talking about in a group chat, it probably belongs on this show.
Yes, facts. My man said, couldn't have said it any better myself. Now, first episode, it's exciting. This is a brand new thing we decided to put together. We actually met doing a House of Highlights show called Clash. If y'all ain't seen it, check it out. I believe it was the Knicks hater one.
We'll be talking about that later.
Yeah. The Knicks, they popping off since we started hating on them, so maybe it helped.
Well, they haven't been as great as I feel like people on that episode has said, but I digress. You know, they just won the NBA Cup, so to your point, they are popping off. But you know, I got my my beefs and quarrels with them. But as we move forward with this episode, we have a whole lot of fun things to talk about today. A lot of crazy things have been happening in the world of sports and just this crazy planet we call Earth in general. And today we're going to talk about some of it.
Exactly. And I'm excited, man. It's a busy day. It's a busy time to be talking about sports in general, because that's going to be a lot of what we're going through today. We got some other things as well, but we're going to start out with the college football playoff. Round 1 just concluded. My phone is ringing right now. People need to stop calling me, but hold on a second. People calling me crazy right now. I'm important right now. But college football playoff round 1. We gonna get into it. I was lucky enough to be at one of the games this week in the Texas A&M Miami game, but instead of talking just about it, we gonna show you as well. And let me just pull up the bracket real quick. And so we got the round 1 in the building, man. We start off with Alabama, Oregon, Oklahoma, Alabama and Oklahoma. Oklahoma lost the game. Alabama came back. 34-24, beat them down. JMU got blown out by Oregon. Obviously, Tulane got blown out by Ole Miss. And Miami and Texas A&M had I don't even know how to explain that game. A low-scoring affair, per se. But we'll start off with the first game, Alabama-Oklahoma. I had Alabama winning that game. I just trust Bama because they've been there, done that. Oklahoma's 0-4, 0-5 now in the college football playoff. In general, I didn't like the quarterback. I wasn't really a big fan of the whole year. He was all right. Like, he played good, Mateer, but I just go based off experience for the most part, and Oklahoma just ain't got that experience as a team. And they losing at home like that in the way that they did when they were up 17-0. That's tough, man. They're going to need a lot of water to swallow that pill.
No, it was brutal. I mean, going into that game, you know, Oklahoma had the home field advantage, which of course, you know, that's always important. But going off of what you said, and, you know, there is actually a lot more to this game in terms of a narrative than just Alabama being Alabama and, you know, being the normal powerhouse that they were. This is a very important year for Alabama as head coach Kalen DeBoer, hope I'm not butchering that. He had a lot to prove going into this playoff, as this wasn't your typical Alabama football year we've been used to for the past 20 years or so with Nick Saban under the helm. He's now gone. You know, he came in from Washington, and they started out the year really rocky. I mean, DeAndre, if you remember, Alabama lost brutally to Florida State, who is now slipping into a bowl game they don't deserve to be in. More on that later. But Alabama going into this game, you know, they've had such an up and down year, and their quarterback, you know, Ty Simpson, I think He is a solid QB. I think he's a little overrated personally, but at the same time, he went into Norman and got the job done against a previous Heisman contender, John Mateer. That Oklahoma team just fell apart at the seams. Alabama going into this game is not one I really saw winning it. I actually thought Oklahoma had it because they had the advantage at home originally, but then the game happened and Alabama just roll tide. They just looked unstoppable. They looked really good. I don't know if that success is going to continue though into this next matchup we have here. And their next matchup being Indiana, who is the most hot team in college football right now, beating the other biggest powerhouse in football, Ohio State. I don't see Alabama moving forward.
Really? I think Alabama has a great chance to move forward. I mean, I like Ty Simpson, man, because Ty Simpson been in the program all for 4 or 5 years. John Mateer, that's his first year at Oklahoma, and there's a lot of players that transfer is a big thing nowadays and whatnot. I try to look deeper rather than just like the game, but I think both quarterbacks in the Oklahoma Alabama game, they're obviously high sought after college quarterbacks, but in regards to like going NFL, maybe not. But good college quarterbacks, I think stability goes a long way. And I think, if maybe Simpson were to transfer, that was his first year in Alabama, maybe he wouldn't have been able to rally the troops per se as, John Mateer wasn't able to because he didn't have the familiarity behind him and whatnot. But I mean, Alabama, they ain't got Saban, but they still Bama, and they proved that. I think they got a great chance against Indiana. I think Indiana's good, but Indiana ain't played no SEC team, man. That's all I'm gonna say. They ain't played no SEC team, and it's gonna get real when they play Bama. What's the spread on that game? If you could find a spread for me, but I just think that it's gonna be a closer game than people think. The game, Alabama. This is time. This is time for them to kind of show that they can be still Bama without Saban. They proved that against Oklahoma. And they got a solid team, even with Ryan Williams being wide receiver 4. Like, I don't even think he caught a pass in that game. So, one of your quote unquote best players not even being a real participant in the game, going against Indiana, who, their quality, they beat Ohio State. Of course, they're a really, really good team. And I'm rooting for Indiana. And I'm SEC all the way, but I'm rooting for Indiana. But I just think, 4 weeks off. That's real tough because remember last year, all the top 4 seeds lost last year in the second round.
Yeah, they did. To answer your question from earlier, the line for this game is actually -6.5/7. I guess it depends on the book to Indiana, and the money line is -250 Indiana. Alabama.
I'm taking that spread.
I think this will be a close game. I think, although to be fair, any game from here on out is going to be really close. The only one that might be a blowout will be that Miami game. Miami, Georgia, I think, right? Is that who they're playing?
No, they play. They play. Yeah,
pardon my French.
Ohio State.
Yeah, that one I think would be a blowout. But back to this, I think going into this matchup, Fernando Mendoza, there's been he won the Heisman. However, I've been hearing a lot of chatter in my ear saying he's a system quarterback. And, that is a word I've used way too much in the past 2 weeks. But I really don't think he is. And I think that while Alabama does, and listen, to your point, I think it's going to be a great game. I actually think this is probably going to be the best game out of this lineup of quarterfinals we have. I don't believe that Alabama is going to be Indiana because, listen, Indiana going into this year, and I saw a really cool stat on this. Everyone thought they had a cakewalk schedule. Hell, they even dodged some teams. They actually took Louisville out of their non-conference schedule and put in Kennesaw State, but I'm going to get to that in a minute, why that actually is kind of important. Indiana going into the year, everyone said had a cakewalk schedule, but they weren't going to beat Ohio State. They weren't going to win against the games that mattered, but they're undefeated still. And they played 3 teams that have over 10 wins this year. Those, ironically, being Kennesaw State, Old Dominion, and Ohio State. And let me
Wait. They were ranked?
the other two were not, but they ended up winning 10 games, and they went through the gauntlet in the Big Ten, including, and I guess this might go against my argument depending on how you look at it, a near loss to Penn State, a post James Franklin Penn State, where Mendoza threw a touchdown pass, I believe, in the last 2 minutes of the game. It might have even been the last play.
It was the last play.
Yeah, and you know that's Heisman activities right there. I don't see that. And listen, that Alabama defense is always amazing. It's always a top. I mean, you look at the draft and how many players defensively and offensively too come from Alabama each year. It's a astronomical statistic. I just don't see Alabama getting over this hump. I predict that Indiana wins this one by a slim margin. It could even be by field goal range.
I mean, Alabama's like that old dog, old Yeller, man. You can always call on him, and it's gonna come back to you. And I just think old Yeller gonna come back, but he's on he's facing a young pup ready to take the throne. And with the system quarterback thing, just saying, I don't know who's saying that to you, but Mendoza, if they didn't realize he's his first year in Indiana. He had a different system in Cal. I don't think they brought that same system over. So I don't know who's saying that, but they need to go to the doctor, get their vitals checked. But I'm with you, man. This might be the best game. I'm excited to watch this one. Where's this one at? This one's in
I think it's in Indiana, but let me. I don't know. It's neutral site. It's neutral site because these are actual bowl games.
Yeah.
Now.
I think that one is. It's either Atlanta or it is in Dallas.
Rose Bowl.
Oh,
it's in LA.
It's in LA.
Oh, it's in
Pasadena.
LA, but it's in the LA area.
Yeah, Pasadena. I actually got to go to the Rose Bowl this year. I went UCLA, Nebraska. Great environment. Both terrible poverty teams, but besides them, yeah, I think Indiana. I'll give them to win this too. You know, all the higher seeds lost last year, but Mendoza won the Heisman. I'm not going to say he's going to have like the refs or like the NCAA on his side per se because they want him to like be that dude. I don't remember, but because we didn't have the Heisman Trophy winner in the playoffs last year. And I just know with the Heisman winner, they make a lot of money involved nowadays. So I think that Indiana's going to win the game. I'll give a prediction of 20-17. 2017. I think it's a lower scoring affair. And Mendoza going to come out in the clutch and give a great speech at the end of the game.
If we're putting number predictions on this, I'm going to go 24-21 Indiana. Like I said, I think it's field goal range for this team. But let's talk about another matchup here in this bracket. One that's kind of confusing to me in a lot of ways, and you were at this game. Miami, Texas A&M. DeAndre, can you break down what the hell happened in Aggie Land?
A travesty, man, a travesty. Well, I don't even know what to explain. All right, well, hold on. So to be precise, look, it was dope. I got to go to the game this past weekend. It was lit in College Station. I haven't been in 10 years. I actually played there back in the day. And, getting there was cool. It was an early game, 11 a.m. I thought that was ridiculous. I was wiping sweat out my eyes getting there, or the sleep out my eyes. Drove all the way from Austin, Texas that morning to get there, about an hour and a half drive. And, I was walking through the campus. People were real nice. I talked to all the peoples, interviewed the peoples before the game and after the game. And before the game, I ran into some dude. And he was like, look, whatever happens, happens. And I'm like, what do you mean whatever happens, happens? He's like, do you not trust your team? And he's like, no, I don't. And I was like, why not? And he's like, because we always make it far and then we crumble at the end. I mean, look what happened to Texas. I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'm just happy to be here. A lot of people kept saying they were just happy to be here. And I was like, really? Because they were 4.5 or 5.5 point favorites in the game. And I'm thinking like, is there something I don't know? Because I know like people come to Mizzou where I went to school. Oh, I have no faith and confidence when it comes to the big games. I know we probably I know what time it is when it comes to the big games. And I'm not 100% familiar on A&M's history, but they haven't won national championships since the World War II, 1939. So that's older than everybody at the game. And so with that, I'm like, look, maybe y'all got a point. Miami does have a better pedigree. Not that that means everything, but Michael Irvin was there. Andre Johnson was there. They had everybody, like, who was anybody on their sidelines. And A&M, Johnny Manziel couldn't even show up because he was still hungover from the fight in Miami. So things were, in those aspects, in those big retrospects of things, looking back on the game, man, the game was 0-0 by halftime. Kickers was missing field goals left and right. One even bounced off the upright. People there were losing hope. They gained hope near the end of the game. And Texas A&M, or Miami scored. Tony scored 10-3. And Miami honestly should have blew them out, because if they would have converted if they would have made their field goals, let alone got touchdowns out of them, they would have had 20, 30 points. Texas A&M couldn't really move the ball. The quarterback was just not there. It was just not there. And the end of the game comes. I got the phone. I posted the video already on my TikTok and Instagram if y'all ain't seen it. The quarterback throwing it. Terrible loft up pass, interception. Game over.
And that play it seeps into a bigger problem with this game. And I think that the overthinking that Marcel Reed, and here's the thing. This could be a Marcel Reed thing or a Mike Elko thing, because at the end of the day, Marcel Reed threw the pick, and I leave this more on the quarterback to decide what to do. But when all year, at the time 11-1 A&M Aggies, they were final ranked in the AP poll number 7, and they looked just dominant all year. They looked like they belonged in at least the quarterfinals, right? Marcel Reed was a dual threat QB. His thing is he could scramble, he could get out of the pocket, and he could score. On that last drive against Miami where he threw that pick, if you saw the replay, there was a wide open, and I can't show it, but there was a wide open section of field to the left of him. He could have easily just scrambled in and tied the game.
Yeah, there was a wide open field. I think he got happy feet because I don't think they had any timeouts left. And I mean, look, it didn't matter if they had any timeouts left. They had enough time. I think there was 20, 30 seconds left in the game. And there was third down when he threw that pick, because first down, he threw it away. Second down, the dude caught it but dropped it because he got laid out. And that was the third down play. And, fourth down, all the marbles, that's it. But there was 4 people around him too. Like, bro, even if you would have thrown it not behind him, either he would have got knocked out, or it would have been a pick, or out of the end zone. Like, I just couldn't. I'm like, bro, like, what do you? And it was a soft throw too. It was an easy pick. It wasn't even no zip on it, no nothing. And Marcel Reed, he was the leading rusher on the team, which is crazy. They didn't run the ball. Everyone's like, run the ball, run the ball. They weren't running the ball at all for whatever reason. It's not like they had to come back until the very end. So I don't understand what was going on with the play calling. Colin Klein is the offensive coordinator, and I believe that was his last game offensive coordinating there, and he's going to go to Kansas State, where he played at. I believe. I could be wrong about the Kansas State part, but I'm pretty sure, because Kansas State, I think, fired their head coach. I just know it's his last game being the offensive coordinator. So I don't know. He was open, and he could have definitely outran those dudes because he got that speed. But I think he thought, if I get tackled and we can't get the ball back to the line for the next play, then, sometimes you can't overthink like that, man. You just got to react. And he, as a dual threat quarterback like he is, he was thinking the whole time, and cost him the whole entire playoffs. And I had them winning this game. I ain't gonna lie, I had them winning this game.
And as a Carson Beck, not gonna say a hater. I'm not a Carson Beck fan. I have a lot of, when I decide who I like as football players, I really take a lot into consideration, even off the field. And that's kind of where my problem lies with Carson Beck, as I do not like the politics. I don't like the antics he brings to a team. But he didn't win them this game. Texas A&M won them that game. They shot themselves in the foot. Texas A&M were, I wouldn't call it heavy favorites, but they were favorites. And I didn't see Miami. I don't think Miami even really belonged in the playoff. I think this was more so a testament to Texas A&M continuing Texas A&M activities and choking the hell out of this team when every year their expectations are the same as Alabama's. I mean, let's not even bring up the Jimbo Fisher era. I mean, that was a joke. I mean, it's like comes to a certain point. You know, you could have as an expensive as a roster as you get with this team. You bring in Mike Elko, who I did like at Duke, and you just if you can't finish it, it's like. And listen, Marcel Reed is not the full problem. If you look at the game, there's many things I could break down. I'm not going to, but this team just something is going on in the front office, and they really need to reevaluate things going into next year. Looking into a different matchup, though, because this one was just a travesty. And Miami going on to Ohio State, quickly, we'll talk about that. I don't think Miami even comes close to beating this team. I think Miami gets the rock beaten out of them. Just completely smoked, just K'd by Ohio State.
I wonder what the spread is for that game. Because funny thing is, though, with the Miami fans were talking crazy. Like, they were talking crazy, and they're making it seem like this is their year. Now, I don't think it's their year, obviously. And I think Ohio State's going to take care of business. But I still think the 3-4 week layoff is going to make the game closer than what it seems. And if this spread is 13-14, I definitely think it's a 10-point game or less.
The early spread for this game is Ohio State minus 9.5.
Okay, right on the money with me then. So
I'm taking that to cover. I don't see Miami. I think, listen, the last game with A&M, their running back got the touchdown. I mean, Miami has some great players on it. They do. I mean, they have a projected top 5 lottery pick in Ruben Jr., or Ruben, however you say his last name. But it's not enough. I think Ryan Day steamrolls the Hurricanes.
Okay, we'll see, Coach. We'll see, Coach. Well, good luck to Miami, man. We're going to send our prayers out for y'all because Ohio State's chomping at the bit like a dog with the bone in front of it. So we will move on to the next 2 games real quick. The next 2 games was JMU Oregon, which was a blowout as I and many others predicted. And we had Tulane and Ole Miss, which was a blowout, as I and many others predicted. Now, look, these 2 games, I'm going to put these 2 games together because I'm not going to lie, I really wasn't watching these games too closely. Everyone knew what time it was going to be. People are going to have had many arguments with people saying, oh, there should be 2. At first, I was like, oh, yeah, there should be 2. I don't want to call them mid-majors. What would you call them? Like G5 teams. What does the G stand for?
5. G.
Oh, I didn't know that. Group of 5 teams in there. And I'm like, no, they shouldn't be in there. Maybe one, but really they both shouldn't be because these are not the best 12 teams. And I don't like how the rules say, oh, we have to include at least 1. And the only reason there's 2 is because the ACC didn't have another at-large. Someone's like, oh, you blame the ACC? I'm like, no. Just put another SEC or Big Ten team, or put Notre Dame, put Texas, or put Vanderbilt on there. I wish Vanderbilt would have got in because I think, too.
I also wish Vanderbilt was in the playoff. They should have been.
They should have been. And it's like, I understand why Texas isn't, and I understand why Notre Dame isn't. But I think having both of these 2 teams in was just a waste. Like, it was a waste of 2 games. These games were not close at all. These games aren't really worth talking about because there's nothing to go over with the games because everyone knew exactly what the outcome was going to be. And if you bet the under on the spread or the spread for Tulane, actually, James Madison actually covered, shockingly.
I was going to say, I don't agree with you on that these 2 games are a waste. I think Tulane should have gotten in. I think James Madison deserved to be in the playoff.
I don't think so.
I had the privilege to be on the field working the JMU Louisville game this year, which is ironically the only team they lost to. And it was still a great game. I actually predicted an upset there.
What was Louisville's record this year?
I don't want to talk. We'll get to that later. But JMU, They ran a very weird quarterback system where their backup was Matt Skolka. Their starter, I don't remember his name, but they had a passing rushing duo that they would sub in and out, and I really liked it. I think that they had a very creative scheme, and their head coach just left, and now Billy Napier is a fucking Duke, which is crazy great hire. I love that for James Madison. But the JMU Dukes, I think, absolutely deserve to be in the playoffs. Tulane, on the other hand, I did like Jake Retzlaff going into this year. I thought he was very good at BYU, and I thought he was smash transferred for Tulane. But I don't think they belonged in the playoff. I think Vanderbilt should have been the 11 seed getting in and should have been playing Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too with the Vanderbilt thing, but I'd say they both look, one is fine, I suppose, but these aren't the best 12 teams, you know? They're just not. And that's my whole point of like them not the games kind of being I won't say pointless. That's too harsh of a word. I guess say not exciting to prep for. You know, I was gonna pick one of four of these games to go to, and those were automatically off my list because I already knew what time it was gonna be. You know, and Oklahoma's game was on a Friday, which made it difficult logistics wise to get to. So, but anyways, it was just I think next year one or two things need to happen is if you're gonna pick the 11 best teams. Pick the 11 best teams, okay? Maybe if you get throw a G5 team in there, sure, whatever. Unless it's like a Boise State that they can usually, if they have a good team there, compete, or maybe like a I don't even know. Boise State, the only one to really come to mind. That's a G5. That's a really kind of could be considered a power school at this point. Um,
Well, there's a weird bridge right now between the traditional power, well, now the power four with the Big 12, ACC, SEC, and Big 10, and the ACC starting to become a little debatable. But the Pac 12 and Mountain West are that weird bridge between the group of five and the power five. And, you know, when you just mentioned it, a school like Boise, a school like historically Washington State or Oregon State, even SDSU, depending maybe on the year, like, you know, schools like that would be the random bridge if they were good enough to take that 11 or 12 spot. But I think in general, what needs to happen moving forward, DeAndre, is I think that the committee might need to be reevaluated. I just don't
yeah.
think whoever is picking the spots in the playoffs, I just don't think it's justified. I think seeing two group of fives in the playoff this year had an important element to it outside of the matchups. I think it proved that there needs to be a closer bridge between group of five and power five that currently exists. But at the same time, you kind of said it, they were two easy outcomes. They weren't upsets, especially not the Ole Miss game. I mean, even though Lane Kiffin left, and we will be talking about that at some point on the show. Um, you know, even though he left, Ole Miss is still a loaded team, and Trinidad Chambliss is a phenomenal quarterback. I did not see a Tulane upset in the slightest, and I really didn't see it with Oregon either.
No, like they weren't winning if they that just wasn't happening, you know. I mean, hell would have had to break loose. Even the backup quarterbacks could have got the job done. And I think if you're gonna bring the G5s in the college football playoff, kind of do it where you do March Madness, where instead of 64 teams, we have 68, and maybe have the two a G5 team play maybe a Vanderbilt or Texas to get that 12th spot. And then have another 11 for the 11 seed, a G5 team that could be a Tulane play a Notre Dame to get that 11th spot. I think that's a quality, you know, a pre-one because they're giving them 3 weeks anyways for as a break, except if you made the conference championship. You had the conference championship the last week of December, then you had the 13th. So some teams had 3 weeks off, some teams had 2 weeks off, depending on who you're talking to. So I think that's a way to go. Obviously, expanding the playoffs, I think it should be 14 to 16 teams. No more than 16. That's getting too many. But
I agree.
yeah, man, there's got to be something because I mean, unless people want to see these games, which yes, I think teams deserve a chance. If you went undefeated, like let's see what they can do. But it's not college basketball. This is not. This is way different. So people saying, well, college basketball, you have March Madness darlings and sweethearts and upsets all the time. That's completely different because basketball as a sport, you can have a team just make threes all games and win the game randomly. Football, that ain't happening, coach. Like
Really. And I mean, I think
Not,
extending to a 16 team playoff would actually do wonders. I actually thought originally it should be 16 teams because the more teams you're able to bring into the pool here, and you say yourself, it's not March Madness. Obviously, don't go up to 32 or 20. It's not basketball. Football is a 51-man roster. There's a lot more elements that go into that game, and there's a lot more randomness. I think that could happen with the factors being every position. If we were able to expand that to 16 teams, more teams like a Notre Dame or a Vanderbilt would get a chance to prove themselves, and maybe even another team that wouldn't even have been considered before, right?
yeah, facts.
I think whether that changes or not is definitely something we'll see in the future. I kind of doubt it because even getting the CFP from 4 to 12 was already if you remember, a very controversial process that just took a
Yeah,
long
10 years, man. 10
time.
years. I wish we had this when I was playing, or else I would have made the college football playoff. So, but that did not happen. So, but it's time to give these predictions for the rest of these games. We'll start with the Orange Bowl for Oregon, Texas. I'll actually be at this game, so I'm going to be excited.
It's awesome.
This game is in Miami. Neither team is really that close. Maybe, yeah, they're neither that close. I'm going to give it to Oregon just because I think Texas Tech had a long enough layoff to where I think they will be extra rusty, kind of like last year. And Oregon got blasted by Ohio State last year. So I think this is their Disney Plus redemption story. ESPN loves stories. Disney loves stories. Oregon's a great story to bring back. And oh, they got blown out. They're going to talk about this all the way. They got blown out last year, and now they're back. And I think they'll get the job done based on that. I'm going to have a high scoring affair. I think it's going to be Oregon 30, Texas Tech 17.
I disagree. I think Texas Tech, there's a lot of controversy surrounding the Red Raiders this year. They have one of the most, if not the most expensive roster in college football, or at least the Big 12. They are just dominant as hell this year. Their linebacker was a Heisman candidate. And I think that, especially with this being a neutral site game and Texas Tech being just a little closer than Oregon, I mean, you have your point. Texas Tech has had more time off, but this is a team that has looked legit this year, and they haven't been slacking. There hasn't been a whole lot of antics here off the field. This isn't a traditional powerhouse either. They are hungry as hell to do well. And I think that Texas Tech, I don't think they destroy Oregon, but I think they win. I think Texas Tech beats Oregon. You see, this is a tough score right here. I don't think this is going to be a very field goal heavy game, but I think that Texas Tech wins this one 31-21.
You know what Texas Tech's best win is of the year?
BYU.
BYU. I mean, look, they also haven't, quote unquote, played anybody, and they have the time off. And Texas Tech, they might have had a Heisman candidate top 10 as the linebacker, but they haven't proven anything to the masses either in regards to who they've beaten. So I think they have an easy Big 12 conference. That's about it, Coach.
But I think that's why, actually, I think that's the reason why they're going to do so well, is because they have this narrative that they haven't put anyone, which, here's the thing about the Big 12. It's not, and listen, as someone who has worked for the ACC this year and who has been around that environment so much, the ACC is a weak-ass conference. The Big 12 is stronger than that. It's number 3 on the Power 4 chain, but Texas Tech had some interesting competition this year. I mean, you had teams that were definitely upset-worthy teams that were in this conference. I mean, BYU, I think, had an argument to be in the playoff for most of the year, right? They were very good.
Texas Tech, they beat BYU, West Virginia, terrible, UCF, mid. They beat BYU twice, but whatever. Kansas State, bad year for them. Oklahoma State, god awful. Arizona, they lost to Arizona State. Kansas, terrible. Houston, I'll give them Houston's respectable. Utah, respectable. They're good. I'll give Utah as a good team. Oregon State, terrible. Kent State, terrible. Arkansas Pine Bluff, terrible. I don't think they lost to Arizona State, who's unranked, and then they beat a good Houston team. They beat a good Utah team. But I
I think this goes along with the narrative that this team is hungry. They have a lot more to prove in this season, and given their seed, I can see it being beat. I think it genuinely is a toss. Like, I mean, whoever this is gonna be a close game, and
yeah, it's gonna be close.
I mean the spread on this one, right? Like,
And I think, unfortunately for them too, Mahomes not going to be there because he just had a surgery, so he's not going to be there to cheer them on. So he's not going to be able to give them that magic.
the Oregon Ducks are favored by 1.5 points, -1.5 Oregon. That is,
That's what I'm talking about. But
I guess we'll see. I guess we will
we'll
see.
see.
But I
We'll
still
see. We'll
think
see.
Tennessee gets this one.
Big Ten. Okay. Well, I got the Big Ten. I got the Big Ten taking it as well. You mean Big 12, or you said Big 12. So, and then we'll go down to we already talked about the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, Ole Miss and Georgia. That is in New Orleans, where that craziness happened last year. I think that Georgia wins this pretty easily. I ain't gonna say easy, but I think they win this closely because they had the time off. It's not gonna be a blowout. Ole Miss doesn't have their coach, of course. They blew out a Tulane. They got that false hope. Georgia's hungry because they trying to get back. Kirby, he's trying to get back, and I think Georgia takes this. I'll say this one might be 34-20.
So here's my take on this game. Listen, Kirby Smart is one of the geniuses in the landscape of college football, one of the smartest coaches, one of the best coaches. And Georgia, just has been one of the most dominant teams in the last few years. But how I really feel about this matchup is, and this is what I've been hearing online, I've been seeing a lot of rumors. There is a lot of conversation with these coaches being talked about of who doesn't belong in the playoff this year. Who are the biggest frauds? And whether they can control it or not, given their circumstance with Lane Kiffin leaving, it is the Ole Miss running Rebels, right? They are just not supposed to be here given their current circumstances. Their roster is still intact. They are still very hungry, and there is a great narrative with that team. Their coach left them, and the coach, Lane Kiffin we'll talk about another time, very drama-riven. A lot of controversy comes around him. They have someone else within the program step up, and now he's leading the team. I think Ole Miss will put up a fight at most, but I see Georgia just completely blowing the brakes off them. The last time they played, it was close. I will give Ole Miss that, but that was under Lane Kiffin. Controversy aside, he is a great coach. And I think that Georgia wins. I think they steamroll the Rebels. You could say hotty toddy all you want, but I think that Georgia wins this game, especially, I love that this is in New Orleans too. It just really, there's going to be a ton of fans at this game because NOLA is really not horribly far from, it's a little far from Athens, but it's not horribly far from Oxford. And I think that it's going to be an electric environment, arguably the best one out of this whole slate. And there's a great story here, but I think Georgia wins this one 24-7.
Oh dang. You ain't giving them a shot. I'm only one. Look, I'm with you there, coach. They'd be lucky to get 2 touchdowns. That's all I'm gonna say. And Georgia, they're a team that's experienced. Then they can use the rest to their advantage rather than it being used against them. But yeah, Gunnar Stockton. What they call him? I went to the Georgia Tech game. They were calling him Stunner Glockton, and he gonna stunt all over them. So
Yeah,
seeing Georgia play as well, and it was a close game against Georgia Tech too. But that's a rivalry game, so a little different. But yeah, I think, like you said, they're gonna take care of business, and we will see them in the semifinals.
I do have one question before before we move on to the next topic here, and it's based off of this Georgia team. You mentioned Gunnar Stockton. He's been great all year, and he was Kind of like Ty Simpson, he kind of came up through Georgia, to my knowledge. He sat behind Carson Beck and he waited for his turn, and he turned out to be great. But do you think, given the current circumstances, and you can have your own opinions on the individual, do you think Gunnar Stockton is an upgrade over Carson Beck?
Yes, because people didn't like Beck either too. So like the fans really weren't high on him. I think he just fits Georgia's narrative better. I don't know where Carson Beck is from, but Gunnar Stockton is from Georgia. He is a hometown kid. I'm gonna see where Carson Beck's from. I don't think he's from Georgia. Oh, he's from Florida too. So I
That's
just think being from Georgia, being the team, that matters. That little stuff matters, and I just think Carson Beck lost his starting job too, and I don't like Gunnar Stockton could lose his job too next year, but look, Carson Beck also, I just think Gunnar Stockton. I ain't gonna get personal with Beck. I ain't gonna get into his personal business. But I just think he's more Georgia, man. He just fits that team, it's kind of like how maybe Daniel Jones fits Indiana better than he fits New York. He ain't really a New York type of dude, and that might have not worked in his favor. Same with Matt. I ain't gonna say same with there's certain quarterbacks that just Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger kind of fits the Pittsburgh mold. Same with Josh Allen in Buffalo. He kind of fits that mold to where maybe he wouldn't be producing it on a New York squad. Granted, it would take a really even they're good quarterbacks. They might not fit that vibe. So I just think Gunnar Stockton fits the Georgia vibe.
And speaking of NFL, let's move on here to our next
But
topic.
we got to get the last game real quick, Coach. Don't forget the last game.
Forgetting one?
Nah, we gotta get the last game, Coach.
Which game are we forgetting here?
Miami, Ohio State.
Oh no, we talked about this.
You gotta pick your winner though. You didn't pick your winner.
My bad, my bad. Ohio State blows the brakes off of Miami, 40-3.
43.
40-3. I know that's really bold, but I really don't think Miami belongs here. I really do not, especially against Ohio State. They lost to Indiana, but those two teams, from what I saw in that game, are way above everyone else, excluding Georgia. I think that there is a lot of disparity in this bracket, and that is the biggest crack in the ground when it comes to that statement. Miami does not belong in this game. They are going to get steamrolled by Ryan Day, Julian Sayin. That team is loaded, man. And if Miami wins this, we'll revisit this and I'll eat my words. But I doubt it's happening.
We'll have to get you a Miami hat if they win. Well, I think Ohio State's going to win too. I think Miami had a good run in it. Not that. But I think Ohio State wins. Look, I ain't going to beat Miami. So I had them. I ain't picking Miami. They barely beat Texas A&M. And it was a terrible game. But I think Ohio State wins. I ain't going to say 40-3. I think it's going to be. I'll give it 24-3. I'll give them the 3.
Okay, so you just want to alter the Ohio State score a little bit. I mean, like, you get my point. They don't belong.
Yeah, they don't belong, Coach. They don't belong. But we will move on, as you were saying. NFL real quick. We can go to NFL, the important games. There are a lot of unimportant games in the NFL real quick. Week 16. And I will say I need to pull up the NFL real quick. So we had the 49ers and Colts play tonight. So that'll be an interesting game. I think 49ers should take care of business on that one. But the Rams beat the Seahawks. Eagles beat the Commanders. Packers beat the Bears. Tampa Bay lost to the Panthers. Vikings beat the Giants. Saints beat the Jets, of course. Cincinnati beat the Dolphins. Tennessee beat the Chiefs, sadly. LA beat the Cowboys. Buffalo beat the Browns. Atlanta beat the Cardinals. Jaguars beat the Broncos. Raiders lost to the Texans. Steelers beat the Lions. And the Patriots beat the Ravens. So which out of these all games, Jacob, was the most piqued your interest the most?
I will tell you which of these games mattered right now because there's a few, but we're not going to cover the ones that didn't. To get the ones that did not matter right out of the way,
Yeah,
just because
we ain't got
we're not going to talk about mediocrity here. Tennessee, Kansas City did not matter. Bengals, Miami was a fun game. The Dolphins Bengals game was fun, but it did not matter. The Chargers Dallas game did have some importance to it, but Dallas is practically out. The Bills Cleveland game was important, and I will mention why in a minute. The Jaguars, the two most important games, actually, no, the three most important games from this slot, with the honorable mention being the New England Baltimore game. At number 3 was the Steelers Lions game. Number 2 was the Jaguars Broncos game. And number 1 was easily the Thursday night matchup with the Seattle Rams game. Oh, and actually don't let me forget. You know what? I'm actually going to go back on that statement. We actually had a lot of important games here. I forgot about Tampa Bay and Carolina. I forgot about Chicago and Green Bay. Those are also important. The reason why I didn't mention them is because their records are a lot closer. But I'll break it down very fast for you, DeAndre. The most exciting game, and I think the best story of this week, was Thursday Night Football. Everyone has been telling me the Rams are Super Bowl favorites out of the NFC, and I live by Philadelphia. I live in a land where I have countless Jets fans, unfortunately, Giants fans, Eagles fans. I'm a Ravens fan, so I support the NFC side of it, whoever's really doing well. I'm not really, I had to pick maybe the Giants, but I'm an AFC guy at heart. And let me say this about the NFC West. It is the most loaded conference in football this year. We're going to not talk about the elephant in the room, the Cardinals. They are garbage. But we are going to talk about the 49ers, right? The 49ers are a team that is really hurt, but they are solid as hell. And when healthy, even when they're still injured, Kyle Shanahan is a genius and still can pull out wins. I'm not going to talk too much about this Colts-Niners matchup tonight. It does matter for both teams, although the Colts are basically outside looking in for the playoffs now with Daniel Jones getting hurt and Phillip Rivers starting as a 44, 45-year-old quarterback. But I think the Niners take it. Won't cover it too long, but this Seahawks Rams game had so much implications. Everyone has been saying for the past few weeks that the Rams have looked amazing. Matthew Stafford's in the MVP conversation. But then let's look at the Seahawks, right? They have been amazing all year, and it hasn't been quarterback play that has been keeping them up. I mean, Sam Darnold actually has been very good this year given the circumstances that it's Sam Darnold. And I was actually a huge Sam Darnold supporter last year. I love his story. His story is phenomenal. I love the comeback. He goes onto the Vikings, completely kicks ass. But then here's the narrative here. Last year, Sam Darnold couldn't get over the Rams in the playoffs. They lost. Sam Darnold, this was his revenge game. Sam Darnold did the impossible, which was beat the LA Rams on a freezing night in Seattle where the Rams looked unstoppable. And it wasn't until the fourth quarter where I remember watching this game. I was at my buddy's house and I really looked at the score and said, okay, Rams have this one. It's over. It went to OT. Sam Darnold pushed it to overtime and beat the Rams on a 2-point conversion. But let's not forget
he took care of them.
The real person who's been the difference maker on this team, besides the coach, who has been phenomenal. Jackson Smith and Jigba has shot up the rankings, is the best wide receiver in the NFL currently.
Best.
Puka Nacua is up there. I mean, here's the thing. You have to look at it from stats. You have to look at it from the performance and impact he's had on the team. He's a captain. JSN has took the biggest leap. I would say talent-wise, Jamar Chase is still probably the best. You have the margin for Justin Jefferson. Puka's now in that, which Puka, I love his story too. But Jackson Smith and Jigba has given the Seahawks consistency and reliability at a position it's very difficult to find that. You have a lot of good wide receivers. I'm sure you know this, playing college back in the day. You have a lot of good wide receivers. but you don't have a lot of amazing wide receivers. And he is that fine line between that, especially when the narrative going into the year for the Seahawks is that JSN wasn't really that good. He had a lot of arguments around him that Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison, and Emeka Egbuka, even now, were going to be better receivers than he was.
No, you're right about that. I mean, definitely gonna be the best receiver in the playoffs, hands down, because all the players, the receivers on good teams ain't even making the playoffs. So, he has a chance to put his stamp on his approval and get his stamp of approval and get into all the clubs he wants. But yeah, look, that Seahawks Rams game was lit. Best game of the year, easily.
Extreme.
Game was lit. I like the Seahawks, man. My team is Kansas City Chiefs, for y'all who don't know. I'm from Kansas City. And my second, but I have two teams, Chiefs and the Panthers. The Panthers are my team because I was born in Carolina, and I was a Carolina Panther fan all throughout growing up because I didn't want to be the same as every other Chiefs fan here. So I'm happy to see they won the game. But yeah, to follow you up, you're right. Darnold got his revenge. I like Darnold. I thought the Vikings never should have got rid of him. I'm not high at all on J.J. McCarthy. I am a J.J. McCarthy hater.
I'm a huge J.J. McCarthy hater. 9 is the dumbest thing I have seen in years, and that dude needs to just be labeled a bust. Move on.
Bust or backup quarterback, one of the two. I mean, he can hold that clipboard pretty well, I heard.
He is doing a disservice to Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson. He just needs to go.
Yeah, it speaks volumes because what Darnold did with the exact team he had last year, and then look at him now. He's injury prone. Like I said, people are like, oh, he only played 2 seasons. He's injured. If you get hurt your whole first season, you're injury prone. That's what injury prone is called.
He was only good at Michigan because Jim Harbaugh, he was a system quarterback. He was that is the argument. He is a system quarterback, and he does not belong in the NFL. I stand by that. I will never have a different take. J.J. McCarthy could be an XFL quarterback. Buy you in the same state of Missouri. Get him on the St. Louis Battlehawks. He'd kick ass.
Dang, not in the NFL?
I know that was a little harsh. I have Justin Jefferson in fantasy. I have very harsh feelings towards.
Not in the NFL?
He's a backup. But I mean, sorry, keep going.
No, I mean, I'm kind of with you. I mean, he won a national championship. I think if you win a national championship, I've always thought this. If you win a national championship as a starting quarterback, you deserve a chance. But that does not mean you should be a first-round draft pick when you have proven that you cannot throw the ball to win your team games. You didn't win his team games. His coach did and the running game did. And he was there. Of course, he was quality. And they say game manager is an important part of the game to manage the game. I'm like, look, I ain't trying to hear all that. If you put J.J. McCarthy on the Jets, they will be terrible like they are this year. He's not going to win you the games. And if you going from a quarterback who is winning you games, 11, 12, 14 games last year, and y'all ain't even sniffed the playoffs this year, I don't want to hear it.
The last thing I'm going to touch on for this Rams-Seahawks game, and you kind of harping off J.J. McCarthy at Michigan was not the centerpiece there. His name was actually Blake Corum, who, may I add, is currently stirring up some trouble in L.A. He's giving Kyren Williams a run for his money. He had 14 carries, 48 yards, 1 touchdown, and he went 1 for 2 on receptions and 13 yards. He had a very solid performance for someone who has been very touted in a tricky LA run game. And, that's someone I think that if we're talking about Michigan players that belong in the NFL from that Harbaugh squad, it would be him over JJ. I don't have confidence in JJ McCarthy, but let's shift gears. You mentioned to me that you were a Panthers fan second. I actually have a lot of respect for that. I love the Panthers because I love rooting for the underdog. And even though I hate David Tepper, terrible owner, he finally stuck his neck out of the team. And now the Panthers, as of last night, I believe just clinched the NFC South, right?
I don't know if they clinched it or not. That was confusing on me because usually I would see the shirts come out and whatnot if they clinched the division. So I don't think they clinched it. I think they will win it. I think they have to win the last game or the Bucks have to lose because I think the Bucks own a tiebreaker because the Bucks did beat them early in the year. And I don't know how I think the point spread is the secondary tiebreaker on that. And then ending up Blake shout out Kyron Williams, the other LA running back from Missouri as well. And I thought you said Blake Corum stirring up trouble. I thought you meant to say he got in trouble. I was like, what happened? but
No.
but yeah, shout out the Panthers, man. They've been my squad for y'all who really know me like that. You know, I've been rocking with the Panthers for the longest. Cam, of course, Jake Delhomme. The list goes on. But yes, the last 10 years have been putrid for the team. And if they were to make the playoffs this year, I'm going, obviously, I cover the games and whatnot, but that'll be hard for me to pass up not going to that game. Now, usually I like going to Philly. It's easy to get there from New York, but if they host a playoff game, I might have to slide on down to Carolina. I mean, they took care of the Bucks, but this is what I think. You know, I still think the team has a long way to go. I think Bryce Young got a long way to go.
That was going
Bryce,
to be my first
yeah, go
question
ahead.
to you, actually. So, and you could hear me, right? I'm not seeing the green bar. Okay, good. So, the Panthers winning last night, it was a close game. They won 23-20. It was very close. And I mean, Tampa Bay's season has been derailed by injuries. It is a good team, no matter how you look at it. Their receiver room is insanely loaded. Baker has had the other amazing comeback story as a quarterback who was once labeled a bust. But we're not talking about the Bucks right now. We're talking about the Panthers. Bryce Young, I have never heard so much crap talked about in the modern day NFL, who is now showing out. You know, I always said when Bryce Young went to the Panthers and they were terrible for the last 2 years, it wasn't his fault. The Panthers didn't have a competent team. Now, out of nowhere, I don't think it was on anybody's bingo card, DeAndre, that the Panthers would be a playoff team this year.
It was on my bingo card.
Really?
It was because they have an easy schedule and they play in a weak division. I think the division is very terrible. It's very weak. The Panthers still haven't proven to me that they can be that squad. I'm gonna tell you their wins this year. They beat the Falcons, terrible. They beat the Dolphins, terrible. They beat the Cowboys, not good. They beat the Jets, not good. They beat the Packers, so I'll give them that win. They beat the Falcons again, terrible. They beat the Rams somehow,
That was crazy.
and
That was a
crazy game. And they beat the Bucks, who are mid. So I'll give them the Rams game. That was the quality win for them. But even the beating the Packers, like that was a 16-13 game. Not to say, look, not to say every week you got to beat a good team, but they've lost all. They're 8-7. They play in a terrible division. Good Lord, terrible.
bottom feeder division.
Terrible. And I love the Panthers. Look, I love them. I'm happy we doing well. But just like the A&M people were telling me they weren't getting too excited, I'm not going to get too excited on this team. I think the Panthers, they have good foundation. What Bryce Young got to show me, at least, especially in these last 2 weeks of the season. Oh, yeah, I forget, no shit that they haven't clinched the division because there's not. My brain is stuck on 16 games. There's 17 games.
It's 18. They haven't. It actually might come to the 18th game for the Panthers because that division is so close.
Yeah.
It normally doesn't happen like that. And I think the only other conference that may happen for, although I don't know after last night, would be the AFC North, but we will see.
Yeah, we'll see. Because the Panthers, they play the Seahawks next week. They both trying to win that game. So I could see the Panthers losing that game, even at home. Then the Panthers-Bucks play the last week of the season. So honestly, like,
The Seahawks aren't trying to win that. The Seahawks actually clinched the NFC West. They've won it.
well, they want that bye though.
They do. Is that
Well,
that? Okay, I guess.
how did they clinch already? Even if they lost the last two games?
I believe that's what I read on the headline. I could fact check myself right now.
That's interesting. If they clinch it, then maybe they'll rest their players. And the Panthers got a chance if they rest their players. But I think if the Seahawks play,
Yes. Oh wait, they clinched the playoffs, but they have not clinched the NFC West. I was incorrect on that. My apologies.
The Panthers losing next week. We losing. I don't believe in the team, man. I mean, look, Bryce Young is cool, but look, he's 2,691 yards passing, 21 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. That's close to a 2-to-1 ratio. That's all right, but I ain't gonna win you anything in the playoffs. I need quality stats. I mean, I don't even think he'll crack 3,000 passing yards. I just think that in 63.5 completion percentage, that's all right. He's all right, like he's all right. I just think
the team around him keeps getting better. I mean, J.C. Horn on defense has been stellar. Ted McMillan has been great this later half of the year. I mean, Xavier Legette needs to do more, in my opinion. But Rico Daddle's resurgence is one of the greatest stories of the year. Chuba Hubbard's still a solid running back. And their line, their line hasn't been horrible. I mean, they haven't been great, but they haven't been horrible. I mean, the Panthers are an interesting team to keep an eye on going forward. On the other side of that, the Buccaneers, their season, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think it's going to come down to the wire. But this team, like my Baltimore Ravens, has been injury struck to the core. And I think they just need to get everyone healthy and try again next year.
Yeah, exactly. Like next year is the year for the Ravens. And, I mean, the Ravens, yeah, especially after last night. But, yeah, I mean, the Panthers, look, they beat the Bucs. I'm happy. Congratulations. But I could still see turmoil coming across the water. And, they haven't made it through the moat yet. They got a little bit more work to do. But I'm gonna just be honest. Like, if they make the playoffs, all the teams that they could play, they're not beating the Seahawks in the playoffs. They're not They could beat the Bears. I don't believe in the Bears 100% either still. They're not beating the Eagles. They're not beating the Rams. They're not beating the 49ers. The teams they would play in the first round would be the Rams, the 49ers, or probably they're going to play the Packers or the Lions or the 49ers. One of those three teams they'll probably play in the first round if the Panthers make the playoffs. Because the Panthers are getting the 4 seed. They're not getting the 3 seed. They'll make the 4 seed and they'll play the 7 seed. And so they'll play either the Lions, the Packers, or the 49ers.
You said something to me that I want to ask about. And, to cap off, that game was a close game. You said you don't believe in the Chicago Bears. And, I have a lot of good friends. I got a lot of people that I deal with when I'm in Kentucky. And I'm sure you're not too far off where you're at in Kansas City because it's not horribly far from, it's the Midwest. There's a lot of loud Bears fans right now. A lot of really loud Bears fans. I got a lot of good people in my corner. Shout out Braden, who are huge. Shout out Sean, huge Bears fans. And the biggest thing I think about with the Bears is this has been the difference maker with them. It's been Ben Johnson. Let's talk about this Packers game. For the majority of this game, kind of similar to the Seahawks game, but not to the same caliber. The Bears didn't look very good most of this game. Neither did the Packers, to be fair. I think without Micah Parsons and Jordan Love getting that concussion, Malik Willis, that's their backup quarterback, right? Guy from Liberty. Malik Willis, I actually think deserves another chance at getting a starting job. I actually thought he was very good at Liberty. But the Packers were not doing well. Josh Jacobs had an abysmal night. And I mean, it looked like it was going to be a field goal type of win for the Packers or whoever was going to take this. But then in the very last minute, Ben Johnson does it again. And this is the most intense rivalry in football. I know there's a lot of arguments to be made, but if you've ever been to the region, if you've ever seen how these fans interact, the only intense rivalries I've ever seen outside of this one have all been college rivalries. There are a few other ones with, the Chiefs, the Eagles. Oh, don't even get me started on Eagles fans. But the Bears-Packers rivalry is heated as hell because it's always very close. The Packers, one of the greatest teams of all time. The Bears, a really good program historically. But the Bears this year, Ben Johnson, do you remember week 1 when the Vikings beat the Bears and we all said J.J. McCarthy looked good?
Yeah, I was at that game. I saw that game.
Yeah, it's very funny how that narrative flipped because now Ben Johnson's doing Ben Johnson things. The Lions just lost and I'm pissed they lost to the Steelers. Oh, I hated that game. But The Lions just lost to the Steelers without their amazing offensive coordinator, now head coach Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, and DJ Moore are currently heroes in the Chicago greater area. And that in overtime, when they got there, I didn't even think they were getting to overtime. I was watching the game. I just didn't really think it was going to happen. But then they got the ball on offense. And Caleb Williams threw that 45-yard pass to DJ Moore. And suddenly, and you're very familiar with DJ Moore if you're a Panthers fan, DJ Moore has been extremely, extremely boom or bust this year. Rome Odunze emerged as the great number one that we were all waiting to see emerge, but then he fell off a rock. Then, you had that weird trio of DJ Moore, Ocadius Zacchaeus, I hope I did not butcher that, and Luther Burden, which, by the way, I know you went to Mizzou. I love Luther Burden out of Mizzou. I thought he was super slept on in the draft. I think he fell for the wrong reasons. He's going to be great. But they had that interesting trio. They had Cole Kmet. They had Colston Loveland, who I had mixed feelings on. And they had, DeAndre Swift. And shout out my Jersey guy, Kyle Magnai from Rutgers. But Caleb Williams has single-handedly proven, at least in the scheme of Ben Johnson, that he is showing to be worth the number one pick. Caleb Williams has been the most controversial figure since that draft, as, you've had other quarterbacks taken lower than him doing better in the recent field of things, but I think that this was a prove-it game for Caleb. And now the Bears are legit. I do believe in the Bears. I think that the Bears have a solid defense. I think the offense is rolling, although it can be... It's like a crappy generator. It takes a few pulls to get started up, but once it does, it keeps going.
No, I think look, you made some good points with the Bears. I think the Bears, look, being at week 1, I've never been to Soldier Field for a game. I got to see everything. They lost that game. I made a video talking to Bears fans after the game. They were all distraught. Oh, same old Bears, another season, this, that, and the third. And I was like, dang, that's how it is up here. I knew the Bears was poverty, but the Pans, it's good. I like that I get to talk to them after because I really get to feel the vibe and the atmosphere, what's going on. And I was thinking maybe it's just another year. And maybe I knew Caleb Williams. I respect him, but it's kind of like the teams that aren't doing good. It's the aura of the team, kind of like the Jets, kind of like the Titans. Like the aura is just not there. And I thought that's what the Bears, they have a respectable history, of course, but they still only got like one Super Bowl back in the 80s. And so, go ahead.
If you just brought up a great point. If we're talking about crappy auras in the NFL, I think the Bears are bottom 5. The past 3 years, Bears fans have been winning the NFL offseason and have been saying, this is our year, this is our year, this is our year. But here's the difference between the Jets and the Bears. The Bears, the past few years, have been expecting to be good. The Jets, and you had that video you did at the Jets game, which I saw with that one fan who was a bit younger, and he was like, oh, I've been born into this. It's just straight misery. The Jets are straight misery. The Titans are straight misery. The Browns, ironically, hold into games, but can never get a quarterback. And we'll talk about Shador another time, but, the Browns just can't get it done. The Bears have a horrible, horrible aura for the fact that they are great on paper most of the time, but the coaching doesn't get it done or they just choke.
Yeah, and that's kind of what times change and whatnot. That used to be kind of the Chiefs too. And, you have those times where things change, but it's very hard to get that change. And until I see it to believe it type of dude when it comes to those type of auras, And I got to see the fourth quarter of this. I think I turned on the TV. This is when I got back from A&M and I turned on the TV and that game was on, the Packers-Bears. And it was about 8 minutes left, 16-6 game. I was just casually watching it. I was like, this is the only thing on. I wasn't about to watch the JMU play, It was either watch JMU Oregon
I've seen enough.
or watch the Bears and the Packers. So let me just turn this Bears game on. And I was watching. I was like, okay, they got the ball. And then they got the onside kick, which Romeo Dubes, one of my least favorite players in the NFL, just because he be losing me money a lot. Every time I bet on him, he be losing me money. So Romeo, get it together, man. I don't know where you need to find Juliet, but find her and get your stuff together, man. I'm tired of you. And take that big old condom off your head, coach. I'm tired of seeing that thing. I'm sick of it.
Helmet condom, bro. That was
I'm s-
that was
I'm
a
sick of
dirty
it.
comment right there, man. I've
I'm just tired, bro. Like
experienced those the Guardian caps. I remember when I played
his
it.
is extra big though. I feel like he got three Guardian
It's
caps
so
on.
weird. Like you just like I can't take you seriously when you're wearing that shit, bro. Like
I can't do
half
it.
the appeal behind football is how cool the helmets look every year. Between the companies that make them, you got Schutt and Riddell. I mean, the F7 is one of the coolest helmets I've ever seen. I don't know what you were rocking in school. I mean, I personally was rocking just a classic Speed, but I
Yeah, it
mean,
was a speed.
I was a lineman. I'm a big guy, so I didn't have anything crazy. But like, dude, presentation. Obviously, you don't want to be that. You don't want to be that player on the field who's got all the drip and then sucks complete dick. But like, the Guardian caps in the NFL, I do respect the cause as concussions has become one of the underlying health concerns and controversies within the sport, the gladiator sport of football. But the Packers wide receiver room, and Romeo Doubs looks aside, is one of the most confusing situations in all of the NFL. DeAndre, do you know a little bit about what's going on in that room between Dontavian Wicks, Christian Watson, Matthew Golden, and Romeo? Like it makes no sense. Who's the one?
I thought it was gonna be Golden, but I mean, I don't know. I think that's gonna be the Packers' downfall. I don't believe in them either. Just because you don't. Jordan Love is good, but he ain't good enough. I don't think he's good enough to elevate those guys to get. And I'm talking about like good enough to get to the Super Bowl. Essentially, you don't need a top 5 receiver, but you need a top receiver, like in generally speaking, and we don't know who's going to be there, who's going to show up. If you ever place a bet on a Packers receiver, don't do it. Save your the stress. And I think that, seeing that game, especially just how everything went down, Love got hurt and the whole night. I watched the game. Love was out. The game was like, what happened to Love, And so just them getting the onside kick and then Caleb Love obviously getting it to DJ Moore at the end and them winning in overtime. I think the Bears, look, they're fun to watch. They're a quality team. But do I think the Eagles will beat them? Yes. Do I think the Seahawks will beat them? Yes. Do I think the Rams will beat them? Yes. Do I think the 49ers will beat them? Yes. Like, they're the best. They're the worst best team in the NFC.
I think you actually said the worst best team that wasn't the Bears, and I think this might be
The Eagles?
yeah, this might be the controversial part of the episode. I think the Eagles are incredibly overrated. And I mean, listen, I loved Jalen Hurts' story last year, and I love the sponsorships he did with Jordan Brand. That was such a random statement. But let me say this, right? The Eagles, Patullo has been on the hot seat for most of the year, but this is a team that they've been coming together they've been beating teams that are bad. Like they just beat the Commanders, but even though the Commanders are starting to come back, I mean, they lost to the Bears recently. They lost to the Chargers, which was, if you watch that game, Jalen Hurts completely just soiled himself. 4 interceptions, and the dude looked like every narrative against him was correct. Because I think here's the deal with the Eagles this year. And listen, I think if you're and this is an exclusive take only to the Philly fans because Philly fans are completely insane. You could have a year this year where you go to the playoffs, you still win the division, which I think the NFC East is incredibly weak, especially compared to last year. I think Dallas has been maybe a pleasant surprise. Shout out George Pickens, who's been killing shit over there. But the Commanders have been injured as hell. The Giants are actually one of the most exciting teams, in my opinion, in terms
George Pickens. You mean CeeDee Lamb?
look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. George Pickens
I've seen like 3
this year.
Cowboys games live this year, and George Pickens is a crash out waiting to happen. But go ahead.
We'll get to that in a little bit. But let me say this, right? And hey, I love GP. But I mean, and shout out that draft picture. But the Eagles this year are a team that I just don't see making it into the further into the playoffs. I think they get out first round to whoever they play. I really don't think that the Eagles have the sauce this year. I mean, yes, they have Saquon, who hasn't had the same production as he had last year, but then again, Saquon last year was just a sight to behold.
All right, well, answer me this question then. Answer me this question. Well, two questions. One, do you think playoff experience matters when it comes to quarterbacks highly in the playoffs? Yes or no?
Of course. Absolutely.
Okay, so tell me who got more playoff experience, Caleb Love or Sam Darnold?
Well, Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams, sorry. Caleb Williams or Sam Darnold?
All good. Sam, I mean,
Who got more experience?
we're putting Jalen Hurts over them, but here's the problem I'm having here, right? It's not the quarterback experience, it's the team. I think that the Eagles are still great offensively, but Jalen Hurts has not looked like himself from last year this year, especially in the
Playoffs is different though. You know, when the playoffs lights turn on, it's a little different.
It's true. Hey, and you know, I could be so wrong on all this. I could be eating all my words in a few days' time, or whenever the playoffs happen. You know, I could be eating my words, and the Eagles go far. They make the NFC Championship, but I don't think that's going to happen because I think that there are other teams that are better, well-rounded, and have better chemistry. And here's the most important part with the playoffs is momentum. I think the Eagles are on a downward trend right now. I mean, morale and team spirit is extremely important with confidence in winning games, and Jalen Hurts doesn't look confident.
I mean, I think the Eagles got the best chemistry out of all the teams in the NFC, especially because they made it to the
AJ Brown?
So I say this because look, I might be a little not biased, but I have a little more insight because I was with the team all last year in the playoffs, and I was at the Super Bowl ceremony when they got the rings. I got to meet all these people, and not to say that other teams don't have that with them, but AJ Brown, everyone knows he's kind of like that's just his attitude, that's his aura. He's out doing his little reading the books thing. He's might make a few complaints here and there, but they're solid. You know, they just won a Super Bowl. And if any team has camaraderie and can go from the depths to pull it together, it's that team out of all the teams left because they've been through the highs and the lows. So I don't care if they won the division now, but if they lose, if they stumble in, they're a team that since they have that experience, they can pull it together rather than a team that's stumbling in that would be the 49ers, who hasn't won. Well, I actually want to put them there because they got the chemistry too. The Seahawks or the Bears or the Packers or even the Lions per take, you know, they've been there and got to the mountaintop and succeeded. And so they know how to deal with all the ups and downs. And I'll say this, Caleb Williams, when it comes to the Bears, he doesn't have more experience than Sam Darnold. He doesn't have more experience than Jalen Hurts. He doesn't have more experience than Matt Stafford. He doesn't have more experience than Purdy. He doesn't have more experience than Love. And he doesn't have more experience than Goff. Not to say that the quarterback with no experience isn't going to win a game. Not saying that, but I'm saying it takes steps. And this is his first playoffs. He will then be that quarterback to have more experience than the other guy coming in. And so I think this is the year they'll make the playoffs. They probably won't get the 1 seed. They could get the 1 seed. Who knows? We don't know.
No, they're not getting the 1.
There's a chance. They have a chance.
They won't get.
But there's a chance.
There's a chance on paper, but I don't think it's happening. I think the one out of the West is going to be, well, actually, now after this week, I think it might be the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks are only 1 game ahead, so like of the Bears. So it would take a lot for the Bears to get the 1 seed. Correct. It would take a lot, but we both don't think they're getting it. They're probably not going to get it. It'll be Caleb Love's first playoff game. He's going to be going against any quarterback outside of the Panthers. With the Panthers, they can't play the Panthers first round. That has a lot of experience in the playoffs. Caleb Love either is going to be playing the Rams, the 49ers, who just won the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
You do bring up a point. Here's the thing. The Rams is a terrifying. All right. Rams versus Bears. Give me the Rams all day. I mean, the Rams defense is great this year. But the other team.
49ers?
The 49ers. They are a team that has been injury riddled, but they've been pulling it together. They actually, kudos to the 49ers, because everything given this year, that stretch of time where Kittle was out, obviously they have the vitality and health of CMC. Purdy, dude, Mac Jones single-handedly won the 49ers most of their season before Purdy came back. I mean, shout out to that team. Shout out Kyle Shanahan. But I think the Bears beat the Niners. I think that Yes, you have Fred Warner on defense. Yes, you have still a relatively good defense, right? But I just don't really think that the Ben Johnson led Bears are going to fall to the 49ers. I think the 49ers are on the outside looking in terms of, winning a playoff game.
Well, the Ben Johnson led Lions did lose to the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, which I was at as well. And, I don't know if it was his call or the coach's call to not kick the field goals, but he did lose at the end of the day. And so I just think with Caleb Williams, it's different lights in the playoffs. It's just different lights. I think that experienced 49ers team would beat the Bears. And then when it comes to the Packers and the Lions, that's their best chance. Hopefully they can get one of those two teams because they are stumbling, bumbling, fumbling into the playoffs. I think if they play the Packers, that'll be a great match. I don't know. They could. Those are the only two teams I think they would beat in the first round. Any other team outside of the Panthers who they can't play in the first round, I think they lose to the Rams and the 49ers. If they don't get one of their NFC North opponents, it's going to be lights out early for the Bears and Caleb Williams. Next year, I think he's got that experience. Okay, I'm ready to go. Regardless, they wins first round, lose it first round, big second round, he's going to lose second round. So I believe in them to make it. They're going to be a fun team, but I don't think they're making it past the divisional round. And that's good for them. So good for the Bears, man. Shout out Chicago.
So we've talked this whole time we talked NFL, we have strictly focused on the NFC. Now,
I forgot about the other division.
Let's shift gears to the very visibly weaker division this year, though this is the division where, in my opinion, the most parity in the league lies, the AFC. Before we get into this week's AFC results and what teams we got for the playoffs, we'll talk about our, how we feel. What are your thoughts on this year from the AFC?
Man, it's a new king of the castle, man. Mahomes is out. It's sad to see, and so I never predicted this at all. I knew we stumbled in the Super Bowl last year, but this year it's going to be a new man on the throne. I think AFC. I've always been more of an NFC guy, but outside of the Chiefs, of course. But it's going to be interesting. I don't like all these teams, so it's kind of hard to pick them. Except, we can go through. The Broncos. I don't believe in Bo. I'm just going to put it like this. I don't believe in Bo Nix yet. Drake May, I believe in him more than Bo Nix. Trevor Lawrence, it's his time to shine. I'm thinking that it's the Jaguars' time to get to the Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl or bust this year for them. He's the quarterback with the most experience. He's a Heisman. Is he a Heisman Trophy winner? No, he is not a Heisman Trophy winner. He didn't win the Heisman. He was a first overall pick. He's been with the team for 4 or 5 years at this point. They got a solid team, overall team. Did he win the Heisman?
No, he was the runner-up to Devonta Smith.
Oh, runner-up Heisman. So he has something to prove in those regards.
Heisman.
I think the Jaguars. I like, for me, picking teams in this playoffs. I pick based off experience. And he has the most experience outside of Aaron Rodgers, but he's old up, washed up, and he's a shell of his old self. He has more experience than Herbert, who he's beaten in the playoffs. And I forgot about Josh Allen. I'd be forgetting about the Bills. And then the Bills. So I think it's either going to be the Jaguars or the Bills. And then depending, maybe Knicks or maybe May can show they are who they really say they are in the playoffs. But I just know that the playoffs is such a different matchup. Some of these teams for the Bills, Josh Allen, it don't matter if you're the 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, or 7 seed. They will be ready to go. That's the only team that I think you can put in any spot and they can get where they need to get to. They don't need home field advantage because it hasn't helped them in the past. But Jacksonville, Duval County, it's just y'all year to make it to the Super Bowl. Not to say you don't have next year, but if any time the strike is now because you don't have Mahomes, you don't have Burrow, you don't have Lamar Jackson, it's time is all the teams really, but especially the Jacksonville Jaguars, who they're like I said before, the aura in the building, they ain't never been there. It ain't really been there in Jacksonville. And so these other teams, they've had the aura before, outside of the Texans too. I think the Jaguars or the Bills is going to be the representative. I have the Bills. My preseason pick, I made a preseason pick, was the Lions and the Bills. Now, Lions, they might not make it, but the Bills are the Lions, or Bills are the Jaguars, that's me.
So Let me give my 2 cents on this. The AFC has a clear list of victors from this year, and I'll give you the order I think that they're in. All right, and we're just going to go off regular season, but this is not how I actually feel in terms of talent, and I'm just going to start off by saying my take. I think this is the Jacksonville Jaguars year, and I'm fully on board the Jacksonville train. I love T Law. I love that this team has prevailed, and my favorite game watching this year was, and listen, you're going to hate me for this answer, was actually when they beat the Chiefs.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that.
That T Law stumble and run. Oh my God, man. I have never seen Trevor Lawrence do something so immaculate before. Maybe since he was in Clemson, he was doing cool shit. But Trevor Lawrence scrambling, like, oh my God, dude, this is amazing. I mean, not the Buccaneers, excuse me. The Jaguars this year, have just been a pleasure to watch and have been the most surprising team out of the AFC. I have heard nothing but hate for this franchise coming in. And, people have questions about the ownership. Oh, yeah, they should move out of Jacksonville to London now. Keep them right in Jacksonville because now the success is rolling in. And they are a newer franchise, them and the Browns, right? I think they're actually the newest franchise in the NFL.
Them and the Panthers, they're the two newest ones. Or actually, the Texans are the newest franchise.
Yes, Texans and the Jags are the newest. And I mean...
Well, the Jags came in the same year as the Panthers, but go ahead.
Yeah, so let's take a look at it like this, right? If we're going over the best teams in the AFC by record, it goes as following. It goes the Broncos, then I believe the Patriots, then I believe the Jaguars, then the Chargers. The Bills are up there still. And then outside of those, the AFC North, I mean, you have the Steelers, but this is where I think things get controversial. And we'll start by talking about the Steelers-Lions game. For full-fledged context to new viewers, I am a Ravens fan, and I absolutely hate the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, due to my nature of debating, I keep things very non-biasedly. Today, we will not be doing that.
We'll see.
Mike Tomlin is a great coach, but I think this team is washed. DK again, and before we even get into this game, let's just get the hot take and the more news-oriented element out of the way. DK Metcalf is a fucking idiot. What the hell, man?
Look, they probably said something crazy to him, man. Let him get him some slack. I know you're not supposed to do that. It was dumb for him to do, but maybe they said something about his mama, man. If you say something about his mama and he's in the heat of battle, I don't blame him.
Yes, it's okay to get heated, but NFL players get paid a certain amount of money. And in that contract, there is somewhere in those terms and conditions that say that there is a fine line between you as a player and then them as a fan. And there is a border you don't cross, and that is one that was crossed. I think DK gets suspended. I think this actually hurts the Steelers because even though the Steelers have one of the weakest receiving rooms in the NFL currently, including an underutilized Johnny Smith, which, opinions aside, I hated that trade, him going to Pittsburgh. He should have stayed in Miami. I know it wasn't his choice.
I blame security, man. That's security's fault for not getting that fan out the way and watching him. Every time I go anywhere, security be on me. Why is the fan be able to get down there with the blue hair? They thought they were just having a pleasant talk and they knew each other. That's security's fault. And I don't blame DK, man. You need to sue the security system in Detroit.
Someone's losing their job. They got to get that security guard from Philly. What's his name? Big Dom.
Big Dom, man.
Yeah, bro. They got to get him in, bro. Like, give that man a raise. Give him a contract. Like, I mean, you can't be like, this is on DK. You can't be doing that. But at the same time, I do get your point, and I think you do need to give a little leeway to the player. Obviously, if this fan was calling him a slur or saying something insane about his family, like, yes, in the heat of the moment, I completely get it, but you are a professional athlete and you can't do that. Antics aside, though, this game, the Lions blew it in the final half of the game. I really wanted them to come back. I was rooting for the Lions, but no, that didn't happen. The Steelers won, and, Chris Boswell was solid from the field today. He didn't miss one at the very end, but it didn't really matter. Aaron Rodgers looked solid, and I think that's a hot debate is whether he is washed. I personally think he's washed. Then again, I'm also an A-Rod hater. But I think that the Steelers, this is just going to be another one-and-done year for them, man. They're not going to win a playoff game. They're going to get into the playoffs, and we'll talk about my Ravens in a minute. But they're going to get into the playoffs, and they are just not going to win.
Yeah, facts. Shout out my man Chisel Adonis, one of the biggest Steelers fans out there. He always claims that they're one and done every year, and this year, like you said, it's gonna be the same thing, man. There's nothing showing on this team that proves that they're better than any of the other teams that's gonna make the playoffs. They're making the playoffs because they're the outright de facto best team in their division, which ain't really saying much. The Ravens ain't nothing this year. The Bengals stumbled, and the Browns are the Browns. So whoever wins this division usually are actually really competitive. It's a down year for them, but yeah, I mean, they're gonna stumble in there. They're gonna face either the Texans or the Bills, most likely. And ain't looking too good, even in Pittsburgh. Even with all the terrible towels you got, man, you're gonna have to wipe something out with them when you exit the building. Shout out the Steelers for possibly making the playoffs, but I don't think it's gonna be a long run for them.
No, and really fast, a team I did forget to mention in my list of great teams was the Texans, and I'll briefly cover that game against Las Vegas.
You said great teams?
Texas is the Texans are a great team, and I'll tell you why. The offense is okay. Stroud has had an okay year. I don't think Stroud's had a great year. I think he's been okay. I think Nico Collins is still a great receiver. I actually have always been a huge Nico Collins fan. I always thought he was so slept on. But let me tell you this, right? Going into this year, CJ had a sophomore slump last year, and this year he really needed to get back on track. I don't really think he did. I think that the team around him has been great. But here is where I'm going to with that point. The Texans' defense has been an utter buzzsaw this year. They have been the biggest nightmare for teams around the league. That defense has been brutal. So this is why when I am watching a Las Vegas Raiders versus Houston Texans matchup, I'm expecting a 40-0 victory, kind of like how the Eagles did it. But a close game? I'm sorry, was the final score 23-21, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's the score. That's the score.
Yeah, right. And that result tells me a lot more to this team than really that. Oh, it tells me a lot more than what's on paper. And the Texans have a great defense. I actually love Derek Stingley and hit a phenomenal pick six in the beginning of the game last night. But losing to the Texans by 2 points by Las Vegas, shout out to them because they have been an abysmal team this year. And I have many mixed feelings on Las Vegas. We'll cover bottom feeders in a future episode. But I think that the Texans can't feel good about this win. It was an ugly win. And I know you're going to make that argument. Win's a win, regardless of how clean or ugly it is. But there's a lot more to that. And the Texans looked vulnerable.
Yeah, they look like a good team. I don't know about great. They got 10 wins, but they also, they play in a weak division. Oh, not weak. I can't even say that anymore. They got in a good division now.
The AFC South not a weak division.
They're not the weak division no more, so I can't even say that. But the Texans, look, they're just a weird team where it's like CJ Stroud got experience. I believe he has won a playoff game before, and they could sneak up on somebody, but they're one of those teams with that aura in the building. You got to take over. So
the word I like to use is the Texans are a dark horse for the AFC.
Okay, that's good. That's a good word. I like dark horse for them, man. They got a light-skinned quarterback, but a dark-skinned path to victory, or dark horse path to victory. Probably the only black quarterback to make the playoffs in the AFC this year. So I'm rooting for it. Yeah, we got the Broncos, the Patriots, Trevor Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers, Herbert, and Josh Allen.
Wow. Yeah.
So you got to do it, Stroud.
He really is.
Got to do it.
For that goes CJ Stroud. But at the same time, let's talk about the other AFC matchup that was a little important from yesterday that actually laid on more of a message to what you said earlier about your preseason pick. The Bills and Browns, which we're not going to talk about this very much because obviously the Browns are record-wise horrible. But there's an underlying tone from this game that I think Bills fans need to be terrified of. And they're really not that good. They really are not that good. I mean, the Cleveland Browns are one of those teams that have a great defense. Myles Garrett is a generational pass rusher. Obviously, they have great pieces on their defense, including a great rookie. I don't remember his name, but I remember reading about it. He was very good. The offense is abysmal. Even though the line's pretty okay, Shador, we will talk about another time, but I don't think he's the answer. But 20-23 against Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen, 12 for 19, 130 yards passing. There was no snow. There was no bad weather. James Cook carried the team.
Which he did torch yesterday. In fact, did you see that first quarter play where he juked out like 5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, James Cook is him. I slept on him going into this year. My apologies to James Cook. You are a beast, but holy shit. You win by a field goal against a team that's what, like 4 wins in? Like 4?
3 wins. 3 wins.
That's false.
I mean, look, they're division. Well, they're not defending division. Look, the Browns, they're tough, and Shador is the answer because he is that guy. And so I'm not surprised they had tough with Shador. Like, of course, Shador gonna give them problems. Like, he gonna give everybody problems for the most part. You know, when he gets a real chance to actually get the game plan together. But that's a story for the day. The Bills. Yeah, man, they've lost me some money this year. I'm not gonna lie. I don't bet on the Bills anymore. I lost money on team props, player props. I can't do it with them no more. We'll see what time it is. I did have them going to the Super Bowl only because I said it's their turn, basically, like we playing Ring Around the Rosie. And I thought the Chiefs were tired, and I had the feeling the Chiefs weren't going to make the Super Bowl this year, at least. I thought they were going to make the playoffs, not Super Bowl, and they could still do that, but they got to get it together, man. They look bad compared to what they usually look like, to be quite honest. Obviously, we've seen Cam Newton flame Keon Coleman as he should. Keon Coleman's a no-show. Khalil Shakir, that's your number one, which is insane. You got a great top 5 running back, and you have a top 5 quarterback, and you got a solid defense, but these games, as all the Bills games has came to in the past, is going to rely on the last 2 minutes of the game and who's going to make those plays. Are we going to count on Josh Allen to throw checkdowns to the two Knox and Kincaid and the running backs? No, we're going to have to see him get it played to these wide receivers and get them to make plays eventually. And so can they do that against these other teams with great weapons? I don't know. And Josh Allen just been bumbling, stumbling, fumbling half the time against these good teams. So I don't know with the Bills, man. I was high hopes on them this season. I thought they're going to be the 1 seed. Technically, they could still make the 1 seed, technically. But I don't even know if they can still make the 1 seed. I don't think they can.
I think the Patriots actually won the division.
Oh, the Patriots? Yeah, they can't even do that.
I think the Patriots won.
Yeah, so, actually the Patriots haven't won the 1 seed. The Bills have won 11 games. The Patriots won 12. So they could still win if Patriots lose their last 2 games, then the Bills would win the division. So this whole 17-game setup got my mind all like I can't do math correctly in the NFL.
Oh yeah, no, they didn't clinch it. But they're damn near close. And I guess that's I think those two teams are very similar in their play styles, which not exactly to a T, but in terms of chemistry and how the teams have looked, the Patriots now are what the Bills were last year. And I think, to cap off this Bills-Browns game, Bills fans got to feel scared. They don't have a clear-cut wide receiver 1. I completely agree with you. Dalton Kincaid has not been great. He has shown flashes, but he's not been great. And I think that offense just centers way too heavily around Josh Allen.
Yeah, and I mean, if he's going to be that guy, like, that essentially Mahomes guy, he has to do this. It's like, I said it's Trevor Lawrence time to do it. It's honestly every quarterback in the AFC's time to do it. And we're going to see who's actually going to do it. But none of these guys in the AFC have proven themselves to make it to the promised land except Aaron Rodgers. But today's Aaron Rodgers in the past ain't really the same person. He's like what's it called when you have your awakening? He's been awoken or something like that. Spiritual awakening. Yeah.
Yeah. The off the court antics, off the field antics with Rodgers is insane.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears a little bit here. My beloved Baltimore Ravens have been injury prone all year. Lamar is not healthy, and that is why they are shitting the bed. You could say whatever you want, but when you're playing a quarterback that is basically playing on a broken foot and is not playing well, he got taken out of the game for Snoop Huntley last night, who this game really grinded my gears. I'm a very angry Ravens fan because I really thought we had it, and then Drake May came and stomped on all of us. Shout out my man Kevin Pierce, even though I am a Ravens fan. He did House of Highlights. He did Clash with us, and I was on his Sports Guard episode about the Mark Andrews drop last year, which Ravens, the Ravens are known as the team for being consistent. They're always consistent, and they have the history, they have rings. But this is Lamar. Lamar is now in this era of his career where he needs to prove it. This year, the injuries, I chalk this year up to injuries, which may sound as a sorry excuse for me as a fan, but if you pay attention to the year, you can completely see it. The team has been injury riddled, and the fact that they're still not eliminated from the playoffs gives more of a message on the AFC North and how the Browns are terrible. The Bengals are overpaying the wrong players and can't get a defense, and the Steelers are just stuck in a rut of decent. They're not mediocre. They're not great. They're just decent. The AFC North is the weakest conference, and the Ravens still have a chance to make the playoffs even after last night's loss.
But do you even want the Ravens to make the playoffs? They just going to be one and done.
Yeah, basically, they are going to be a one and done if they make it. However, it's like the Steelers. They still make the playoffs every year, and they have that as a bragging right. You want that as a Ravens fan. And also, when you hate the Steelers as much as I do, if you're in over the Steelers, it's a win. I mean, going into this year, I thought the Ravens were going to win a Super Bowl. That's a delusional take now looking back, but I really thought this was our year. I mean, Derrick Henry's had fumbling problems all year. Zay Flowers literally sold us the game last night, which I'm not going to get personal.
Well, somebody's always selling y'all the game. If it ain't Mark Andrews selling the game, it's Zay Flowers, or it's that one receiver number, Lee Evans, or it's somebody selling y'all the game within recent memory, and I don't know, man. Ravens, y'all, I like the Ravens too. Y'all a likable team, but man, y'all, and also there's a conspiracy theory going on that somebody, I don't know what's going on, but they didn't give Derrick Henry the ball in the fourth quarter. What's up with that, man?
Yeah, they gave it way too much to Keaton Mitchell. I'm really not sure. I think the biggest controversy right now with the Ravens is whether Harbaugh is going to be coaching next year or not, which I personally think he will be. Harbaugh is a great coach regardless of how this team has went this year. But this team is nonetheless pretty much out of the playoffs. They need a miracle to happen to get in, and it's not impossible. We have seen crazy scenarios before. But at the same time, the Ravens are just a team that has just nonstop disappointed me this year, and the Patriots, looking on the other side of this, Drake May's looked phenomenal. His weapons around him have looked very solid as well. Hunter Henry has had a resurgence as a pretty good tight end this year, and he's been, a very nice safety blanket for Drake May. Stephon Diggs and the receivers around them, I consider it a shallow room, but with how Drake May has been playing, kind of like a Josh Allen type player where he just elevates everyone around him, this team looks solid. And may I just say that the Tennessee Titans are the dumbest franchise of all time for letting ownership get in the way of firing Mike fucking Vrabel? The Patriots lucked out by getting rid of Mayo and getting Vrabel in. Vrabel's a great coach, and now that hire is reaping its benefits. The Patriots, I think, win the AFC this year.
Yeah, no, the Titans deserve poverty for that and Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry wasn't trying to leave either. And A.J. Brown. They had a whole nice squad out there, man, and they sold it all away for nothing.
They were literally contending for AFC championships, and now they have a young, promising quarterback, but the worst team on paper otherwise. Except L'Jarius Sneed. I don't know how he's been this year, but he was pretty good on the Chiefs.
I haven't really watched. I mean, they won 3 games. Nobody watching them. But so it's like Titans, they self-sabotage themselves. They have one of the better coaches, and because they had one down year, they're like, oh, we got to get rid of him. I'm like, y'all, teams don't have patience. If you have one bad year, like the Ravens having this year, or the Chiefs, or the Bengals, well, Bengals have multiple bad years, but that's because Burrow been hurt. You can't give up on your players so quickly. Things happen, like that year, down years happen, but it's about what do we have with us? And if you think the grass is green on the other side, good luck. But as you can see with the Titans case, it ain't. And I personally don't think Cam Ward's a rookie, so I give patience for rookies. I'm not going to claim what he is yet, but everything else really ain't been seeming that great. But we'll see. I mean, it's too early for them, but yeah, they had a nice thing together, and they traded all their best players away for future, and we'll see. The future is coming in the next couple of years with them, but yeah, we gonna see, man. Well, the football is looking interesting. The NFL, we got a couple. Last thing I was gonna ask. So the Ravens got the last 2 games. They played at the Packers and then at the Steelers. What you think is gonna happen?
And it's a great question because I thought going into this Patriots game, I thought the Ravens were gonna win. I thought it was gonna be a close game, but I thought the Ravens were gonna win. It was at home. the story was looking good, but then Lamar went out of the game, and now it's probably Snoop Huntley for the next game. I think we're losing to the Packers, and I think that the Steelers might already be in the playoffs by the end of that game. So, if that's the case, I think the Ravens are just, they get eliminated, they sit Lamar, and they go into Pittsburgh and they do what they can. They're not going to play their starters in that game, most likely. I don't think. I mean, I could be wrong. We'll see.
Well,
see.
the Steelers play the Browns next week, so good luck.
Yeah. Although that is,
I mean, they do play tough. They do play each other tough.
And I was going to say that is.
They do got Shador too, so Shador probably gonna beat them. You know, like,
that's not the Jets. That's not the Titans. That's the Browns. I think that the Steelers.
Shador.
Yeah, the Steelers could drop it off, but I think this season's just done as a Ravens fan, and I've shifted gears to rooting for the Jaguars. Like I said, I think the Patriots are going to win the AFC. I want the Jaguars to go all the way because, between Jacoby Myers getting a new home this year, between Travis Etienne looking solid this year, between Trevor Lawrence, and this is the most important one, between Trevor Lawrence taking that leap, and the last few weeks, Trevor Lawrence has been a QB1 in the whole league. He's been a top quarterback. And I mean, to cap off this conversation, this past week was a crazy week for football. It's going to be very exciting when we talk about next week and what that looks like. But I think that the Jaguars have the highest momentum going into this AFC, right? I think that in terms of the NFC, the Seahawks got it. Those two teams are teams to look out for.
It's going to be a cool Super Bowl. I'm excited. We get some new blood. That's what I'd like to. And so with the new blood, we're going to switch to some blood that got spilled with the Jake Paul Jacob fight. It happened this past Saturday on Netflix. It was an interesting fight to say the least. I had to rewatch it just because it was such tumultuousness. But I'm going to read this real quick from CBS. Joshua results. AJ knocks out the social media star. As expected, Anthony Joshua knocked out Jake Paul in Miami on Friday night. What was not expected is that it took Joshua until round 6 to finish off the influencer turned boxer. The fight was ugly from the jump, with Paul getting on the proverbial bicycle and moving laterally among the ropes, forcing Joshua to chase him around the ring. The strategy was effective enough as Paul did not take clean shots round after round. It allowed him to have an argument to win 1 or 2 of the 4 opening rounds. Round 5 was where reality struck for Paul, as Joshua was finally able to land a few clean shots, which proved enough to hurt the smaller Paul. Left from Joshua buckled Paul's legs and allowed Joshua to pounce and score his first knockdown of the fight. A second knockdown followed as Joshua landed a right-hand counter. Paul managed to escape the round, but he looked exhausted from the constant movement and hurt from Joshua's power shots. Round 6 didn't last long as Joshua landed a bomb of a right hand that dropped Paul. Paul was unable to beat the referee's count, and the fight ended at the 131 mark in round 6. Man, what you think about this fight, man?
I did watch some parts of this fight, especially the end, and a lot of the things I heard about this going into the fight, and a lot of it could have been jokes because, listen, Jake Paul, as you know, is a very controversial figure in terms of how people actually hold him in terms of seriousness. I mean, hey, if you've even seen the Sora AI wave, I mean, that guy's on there getting turned into a balloon, getting turned into a car, saying crazy things. But at the same time, he's also one of the smartest people in the creator space, letting himself be able to be doing that. He also is now a fighter, which I think is good for you, Mark. But this fight, he looked withered. He looked slow. He looked out of shape. I don't think he prepared well for this fight. I mean, you could see whatever on social media, but what I was reading and what I've been seeing on Reddit, on Instagram, and just on a few news outlets is that he wasn't ready. He was out of shape. And Anthony Joshua is a fighter who is also very controversial, has dealt with a lot of backlash, a lot of hate. So this was a very good win for his reputation. I don't think it's a huge win in terms of record or a league just because this felt like more of a celebrity fight. But at the same time, Jake Paul, the most iconic moment from this fight was that picture. Let me see if I can pull it up. Jake Paul getting his jaw broken. The double jawbreaker was a sight to see. I have seen some crazy boxing pictures, but I'm going.
He got knocked out.
He got knocked the hell out, and it was something that you either loved to see or hated to see as a martial arts fan. And let me pull that up right now. My computer, unfortunately, is acting a little slow, but in the picture, it is pretty clear.
Okay. It's okay.
It is pretty clear what the result here is, and
his jaw looked like a cartoon character, man.
This picture kind of just conveys the general message here. I mean, can you see it? Is it on the screen?
Yeah, we can see it, Coach.
Yeah, you see right here. You got my mouse, and let me just say, this is just like you said it yourself. He looks like a cartoon character, and I mean, I think that picture conveys the message that is said about this fight. Jake Paul got his shit rocked, and I think that, he's still getting paid $100 million. He's really not losing in the grand scheme of things. I mean, he lost because he has a broken jaw now, and I mean, yeah, he lost a little bit of his dignity, but not a whole lot, to the point where I'd say, this was nuts. I think this was definitely something that was a viewer special. This was something that a lot of people wanted to watch. But Jake Paul, I actually thought he was going to win this fight. Actually, Jake Paul, if you don't know this, has a background in wrestling and has kind of been fighting his whole life in a sense. I mean, it was more folk style wrestling. Shout out to Ohio as a state, great wrestling state. Shout out to Logan too. They were both very good at it. But Jake Paul is somebody that is more of a name than someone you look for on the ring. He's a YouTuber. I mean, obviously, you remember back when he was huge on YouTube back in the late 2010s. He has other controversy to his name, and I think that there's more of a narrative behind the fact that Jake Paul lost more than Anthony Joshua.
Look, man, Jake Paul pays his fights, man. He pays for all these things. I'm not a personal fan of dude. I respect what he's done what he's done for himself. It is admirable how he was able to build his brand to what it is. That's not something that you can necessarily buy to that degree in today's age. So that part, cool, But these boxing, all these matches has been very suspect. People getting paid allegedly X amount of dollars. I was at the Paul Tyson fight last year. I saw it up close in person. I was on the floor. And that showed me everything I need to see right there. I mean, I've watched the fights on TV, but being there is just a spectacle, and the spectacle was a build-up. This fight, honestly, this fight wasn't even supposed to happen. It was supposed to be Jake Paul and Devontae Davis, but that got canceled because some legal issues. And this fight was terrible. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm not gonna lie. Anthony Joshua was pulling punches like Tyson was. Tyson with that fight, he pulled so many punches in the first round. It was ridiculous. He had him on the ropes. And then after the first round happened, I don't know who got in his ear, but he just laid off after that. And then we got what we got. Of Paul's. Yeah, it was terrible, bro. Like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm glad Joshua got him, but at the same time, he should have knocked him out in the first round if you wanted to be legit. And I know there was probably a money payoff saying, okay, we got to last this amount of long. Okay, it's time. But I don't believe it for a second. He shouldn't have lasted around. I mean, this guy, Anthony Joshua, has fought in the Olympics. He's fought in the Olympics. He's a real boxer. He's a super heavyweight at that. Jake Paul, he's not tall enough to be heavyweight, for one. And for two, he just did it because to try to choke his ego and maybe, I don't even know what his goal was, because it wasn't his original fight. And I just think he needed to have a fight in general because they were on Netflix's dime. Once this fight got canceled with Gervonta Davis, which Jake Paul was the heavier one, and that wasn't a fair fight, then now they needed to find something. And this was the next big thing. Well, if I'm going to be way bigger, then maybe I can pivot to being the smaller guy, and then that'll bring people, because it wasn't supposed to happen in the first place. The people that Jake Paul has fought is Annie Gibson, who I've never heard of dude before in my life, and Eason Gibb, who he won by a knockout. He fought Nate Robinson, NBA player, Ben Askren, MMA fighter, Tyron Woodley, MMA fighter, who is shout out Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley, both Mizzou people. Anderson Silva, a UFC guy, Tommy Fury, who he lost to, which is a boxer, Nate Diaz, a UFC fighter. And then he fought these other dudes, Andre August, Ryan Bullion, who he won as both. I've never heard of them. They don't even have pictures by their names where I'm looking at up. Mike Perry, who's a boxer / fighter. I've never heard of him either. Mike Tyson and Julio Cesar Chavez, which he's an old boxer at that. And then Anthony Joshua. So either you're fighting no names who we've never heard of or people who aren't even boxers like that. So, long story short, this fight was a sham. Netflix and Jake Paul got a deal going on right now. I feel like it's a 3-fight deal, and I think he has one more fight to fulfill, and then they can kind of get out of that. That's kind of what I think. And yeah, man, this fight was garbage.
I agree. And I don't really want to talk about it a whole much longer just because I feel like the things with these fights, you kind of set yourself is this is really just I don't want to call it clickbait because it's not the right word, but it's
a money grab.
It's a money grab. It's meant for, names and, a lot of Gen Alpha, a lot of Gen Z too, love Jake Paul. So, there's going to get a lot of clicks and it's just, I'm not. You see, we preach authenticity on this show, and this just doesn't feel authentic.
Not authentic in the least bit. It feels inauthentic. We just had to bring it up because it happened Saturday night. But we were trying to watch the Oklahoma-Alabama game, though. Let's be real. Actually, no. We're trying to, yeah. The Oklahoma, was that Friday night or Saturday night? I don't even know. See,
that was a Friday night, I believe. I think that was a Friday night game,
right? It was a Friday night. So look, I don't even know. It was Friday. You're right. It was Friday. Friday night fight night. But anywho, we gonna move on to the NBA Cup. The NBA Cup. The champion was named last week. The New York Knicks beat the Spurs to win their first championship.
Yeah. I'll start with this. I have mixed feelings on the NBA Cup. I can appreciate a player incentivized cup. I think it's a double-edged sword, DeAndre. I think that the NBA Cup can give players more incentive in an 80-game season to, play competitively midway through the year. But at the same time, it just feels like this just takes a lot of glory away from what the finals should be. And I just don't think the NBA Cup is ever going to have that same level of importance as per se a playoff type game, because the NBA Cup is just an incentive thing. It does show an outlook for how a team's performing at the time, but given the longevity of an NBA season, a lot of that changes. And we'll talk about this bracket style, right? I can't pull it up, unfortunately, because my Mac really can't handle this. But I think if we look at what was on the East, the NBA Cup was a 4-team play-in for the 4 best teams from each conference at the time. Although I don't even know if is that even true? Because I'm looking at
So the cup is operated, so they play the cup games on Friday, starting with the second or third week of the NBA season, and those are the games that go towards this cup. It's not about who has the best record. It's not about anything of that. It's just who wins these cup games. So the cup games are whenever the NBA changes the floor, and they have those different the different hardwoods. That's the cup games, and those are counted towards this NBA Cup. So it ain't got nothing to do with who got the best record or anything like that. It's just the cup games. I went to a couple cup games this year. I went to like a Sixers one, and then I went to a Pistons one. And it's cool to see the courts like that, but that's how it's determined. So it ain't got nothing to do with regular season.
Interesting. I did not know this. And with that, I'm looking at the bracket right here, and I mean, you have the Suns in on the other side of the West. I didn't expect that, but you see the Knicks and the Spurs in the finals, and I remember watching the Thunder Spurs Cup game thinking to myself, and listen, the Thunder are currently on a whole nother plane of talented, but the NBA, especially in the West, looks very scary this year. And I think the Knicks winning the cup gives a little bit of hope towards the East. I think we mentioned this a little bit in the beginning of the episode, but we'll touch back on this now. Andre and I met through House of Highlights when we were on Clash hating on the New York Knicks. And when we were doing that, I had a lot of very animated things to say about the New York Knicks. I personally believe that them firing Tom Thibodeau was a terrible decision. Granted, he had problems with that team. I didn't think Mike Brown was much of an upgrade. Offensively, he was, but in the general grand scheme of things, I don't think he was really that much better. There is teams outside of the East like the Cavaliers. I mean, now this year, I think the Magic are actually doing pretty damn well. And, you have other teams like maybe the Hawks that are doing okay. The Bulls are looking actually not horrible. They just won last night, which was a pretty close game. But, the Sixers are solid. But here's the problem with the NBA. The East is just still so weak. The Knicks winning the NBA Cup, New York fans, as you know, I mean, you're in New York, they're going to take this way more seriously than any other fan base would take it serious. If the Thunder won the cup, they would have been like, oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, they've been like, we don't care about the cup. We want the real cup. We want the championship.
If the Spurs won it, I actually would have loved that. I think the Spurs have one of the most exciting young teams right now, especially with Ron Harper, right? You have Ron Harper, Dylan Harper, right?
Dylan Harper.
One of the Harper brothers. Victor Wembanyama is the most terrifying player on the court right now. I mean, the only answer is really Giannis, and even then, I don't think he's the answer. Wemby is just, you got to be scared going forward, man. That guy's going to win a championship, at least one. And them losing to the Knicks, I think, was definitely kind of surprising. But at the same time, I think that the NBA Cup, the Knicks winning it, which congratulations to the New York Knicks, but at the same time, I don't think this is something that's going to dictate the Knicks season. I think the Knicks will make the playoffs. Hell, I could see them making the AFC Championship again. I mean,
you mean the finals? You mean the Eastern Conference?
Eastern Conference Finals. My bad. Still have the football brain going, but I could see the Knicks making the ECF. I don't think that they're going to be a finals team this year.
So who do you think gonna beat them then?
I think that even though their start has not been amazing, I think the Cavaliers are the team to look out for on the East. I think it's the Cavs. We will see. I think the Magic are a sleeper too. I think Paolo Banchero has been very solid, and his supporting cast has looked very good. I think the Sixers, my dear Sixers, are, if they stay healthy and Embiid can play well, I think we have a shot. But the East is just the NBA Cup. The Knicks winning it, good for them. But the big narrative.
Are you a Sixers fan?
I am a Sixers fan.
So how is that? Because you ain't an Eagles fan.
So it is kind of like this. I'll give you a quick breakdown. I don't hate the Eagles. I don't love the Eagles, but I'm a Ravens fan. My dad went to the University of Maryland. Go Terps, even though they're terrible at everything except lacrosse, men's lacrosse. But I grew up going to Baltimore a lot, and I grew up going to a lot of Ravens games and Orioles games, right? So at heart, I am a Ravens fan for football, but most of my family, and I did grow up in Philadelphia for a few years. I grew up going to a lot of Flyers games, Phillies games, been to a good amount of Sixers games too. So that's why I'm Philly everything. And I don't hate the Eagles, but they're not my favorite team.
Okay, that makes sense. I just had to put the puzzle pieces together. I was confused a little bit.
Yeah, so I had to break that down for you. And the fog is clear now. But let me say this: my Sixers are they're gonna choke. I mean, it's just how it goes. It's just. I'm not even gonna say more on it. What team do you like? Are you a Knicks fan?
I'm a Nuggets fan.
Yeah.
I'm a Nuggets fan because I'm from Kansas City. We do not have an NBA team, and growing up, the OKC Thunder was not there when I was of young age to pick a team, and so it was either the Bulls in Chicago or the Nuggets because they're the two closest teams via distance-wise. And then I liked Melo, so that kind of made it easy. And the Bulls, after Jordan, I was like real little when Jordan was playing. So like it wasn't, I didn't get to see him. I just everyone liked Jordan. I was like, I want the Nuggets. So that's me. But yeah, man, I think the cup was cool for the Knicks, man. They get a championship. They get some gear. If people want to buy the championship cup gear, have at it. I don't know how it would feel rocking that, but hey, congrats. Um, I like the cup. It's cool. It adds a little flavor. Add into whatnot with the courts changing. I got to, like I said, go to a few cup games. I got to go to a Mavs cup game. I like seeing the different courts. It's cool. I've always wanted. Growing up, I'm always like, oh, I want the courts different colors, and now I get to see it. Spurs, yes, they're gonna be a force to reckon with, and I think honestly, winning the cup for the Knicks is a good omen. Last year, the Thunder actually made it to the Cup Finals and lost to the Bucks, and they won the NBA championship. The year before that, the Lakers won the cup but lost to the Pacers. The Pacers eventually made it to the NBA Finals. So if the pattern repeats, the Spurs and or the Knicks will make the finals this year or next year. So I think it's good with morale early this season. You kind of see what you got comparison to the other top teams. It puts your players in that kind of playoff atmosphere to a degree. And, the Knicks have that. The Spurs don't. So I think it's better for the Spurs in this case. Long term to kind of see, get that emotions through them. And I think, honestly, the Knicks, they make the finals this year. It's finals or bust for them this year. If they don't make it this year, I don't know what else you can do to make it except get Kevin Durant or Giannis, but it's time. I think it's going to be a long April and May for New Yorkers in the good way for the most part. I don't think they're going to win the finals. I just think they're going to get there. But the other teams in the East, you got the Pistons. They're the 1 seed currently. Pistons are nice. I got to see the Pistons play. They're nice, but I think
They're really nice. They're gross.
yeah, they're nice. And so Cade has to transform into that next level. And if he can do that, they got a good chance of beating the Knicks. The Magic, they're strong too, like you said. I got to see a little bit more.
Yeah, me too.
A little bit more, but they look strong. The Sixers, I like the Sixers a lot. If Embiid stays healthy, they can beat any team. But I don't think he's gonna be healthy.
For the past 5 years, man.
I don't think he'll be healthy. So I'm just gonna put it like that. He ain't gonna be healthy. Edgecombe is dope. I love Edgecombe. He's lit. And then I think the other team, the Cavs, I don't know. They kind of like I don't believe in them because of the aura in the building. Take out LeBron James Cavs, but just outside of LeBron James, the Cavs ain't got that aura in the building.
Yeah.
And it's a wrap. So shout out the Knicks for winning the cup. Then we gonna move on real quick to this new thing that's going on called the Patriot Games. And I'm going to bring up our friend, our president of the United States, to speak on the Patriot Games. Let's hear what he got to say real
In my
quick.
campaign for president, I pledged to give America the most spectacular birthday party the world has ever seen for America's 250th anniversary on July 4th next year. Already, we've had big celebrations to commemorate the 250th birthdays of the Army, the Navy, and the United States Marines, but there is much, much more to come. We're going to have a good time. As we ring in 2026, Americans across the nation will see the iconic Washington Monument illuminated with festive birthday lights to honor the start of this historic anniversary year. Then from June 25th to July 10th of next year, we will host the Great American State Fair on the National Mall, featuring pavilions from all 50 states, highlighting breathtaking innovations and celebrating America's exceptional history and culture. Frankly, you'll never see anything like it, and you'll never see anything like it again. In the fall, we will host the first ever Patriot Games, an unprecedented 4-day athletic event featuring the greatest high school athletes, one young man and one young woman from each state and territory. But I promise there will be no men playing in women's sports. You're not going to see that. You'll see everything but that. As I first announced in 2020, we will build the National Garden of American Heroes featuring statues of all-time greatest Americans. And we will build a triumphal arc as we celebrate 250 years of American freedom. We are the only major city. We are the only major capital. We are the only major place without a triumphal arc, a beautiful triumphal arc, one like in Paris where they have the Great, a beautiful arc in Paris. They call it the Arc de Triomphe. And we're going to have one in Washington, D.C. very soon. Construction will start in the very near future. And next spring, we will host a major prayer event on the National Mall to rededicate our country as one nation under God. We're not changing that. There are a lot of people who would like to see it. It'll never happen. And on Flag Day, we will have a one of a kind UFC event here at the White House. It'll be the greatest champion fighters in the world, all fighting that same night. The great Dana White is hosting, and it's going to be something special. But all of this is just the beginning. 2026 will be a celebration of America like no other, honoring our nation and all of its glory. To help carry out these exciting plans, we have created a new public private partnership. It's called Freedom 250. Working with states, companies, and organizations across the country, we will renew the patriotism, pride, and pioneering spirit of America and lay the groundwork for the next 250 years of independence and freedom. This will be a time like you've never had in your lives. America 250. Thank you. I love you all.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Sports betting is here, Missouri. Unlock a huge 365.
Stop. I'm out of here, coach. Okay. Interesting. Wow, that was a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that was so we're gonna keep this simple and focus on the Patriot games. I have mixed emotions on a lot of that, but we're gonna save those emotions for another time. I think the Patriot games is what needs to be talked about here because what exactly did he mean by that? A competition where there will be one woman and one man victor. This sounds a lot like a certain story that was pretty popular when I was growing up, the Hunger Games.
Yeah, man. Is there gonna be we got the 50 districts. We gonna have a bloodbath and we gonna have one sacrifice. Is that what we doing from now on, coach? Because I'm glad I'm not of age anymore to be a part of it. I do not volunteer as tribute.
I am not of age or of shape, I will say. And let me just premise this. I think I am really hoping that they just do this Olympic style, or maybe they do some sort of combine, or I don't know. Like, what competition really cap encapsulates the skills of every athlete from their suited, sport? Because he said one man and one woman from every state type Hunger Game situation, like type shit. I mean, how do you plan on encapsulating a whole different spectrum of athletes into one competition? Because I mean, what are you going to pull a 280-pound lineman from Georgia and put it up against a 100-pound track star from Vermont? How's that going to work?
Yeah, I don't know. I think what I would guess is they might have like preliminaries to enter this in their own state, and I think they will announce that in the coming months of what these games preliminaries will be, hopefully. Or they just I don't know how you pick the person. Is it like a vote? Is it I mean, that's a whole thing in itself, but
Probably a committee picked from him, which I would assume.
yeah, true.
I mean, like, DeAndre, how do you determine who is going to participate in this? I mean, and listen, he made that, comment that there'll be no men playing in women's sports, but if this is a competition for 50 people, I mean, are you going to be, I mean, I guess he's not crossing genders, but like,
Well, I think it's like 50 men and 50 women.
yeah, but like, how exactly do you determine a greatest athlete out of 50 people coming from different sport background?
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of be like a decathlon setting, like, with the track that does like javelin, and you do 100-meter dash, and you do hurdles, and you do shot put. So This is what I think. I think this is what he gonna do. Trump, he's trying to find things to breathe. We've been real decisive as a country the last few years.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to bring people together. I do appreciate him trying to bring people together in that kind of athletic swim. What brings everybody together? Sports.
Yeah, unity's great. Unity's great, but I mean, I could see him just totally telling this group of people, "Oh, do a lap around the monument, and whoever wins, you're the best in the U.S." I mean, this could be. I mean, that was a terrible example, but at the same time, like this seems a lot like to me a trying to word this properly. It doesn't seem like a good idea. I mean, you look at athletics in the deeper picture of it, and what makes it so beautiful, what makes it so great, is that you have different sports, right? You have different sports, you have different backgrounds, you have different types of athletes. Some people are fast, some people are strong, some people have more mental clarity. But at the same time, how are you really going to be able to showcase that and crown a Mr. and Mrs. America I'm just very, very curious to see how he incorporates a competition that determines that into his plans, because it doesn't really seem possible off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that's, I don't know who's gonna be in charge of putting this thing together. I mean, and then is this a ticketed event too? Is it only gonna be on TV? Like all these little things that come into my head because it's everything at the bottom. We a country of what's the word about money? What's the money? A capitalist country. We are a capitalist country. And where's the bottom dollar coming from? Is this going to be taken out of our taxes to support these games? Because if so, I don't support it. So, and then what's the goal? There has to be a reason we do things. I'd see the value of competition and whatnot. People could say, "What's the point of playing sports?" Well, money, capitalism. And so, what's the not the goal of playing sports, but like that's just what our country was founded on, playing these sports. Essentially, there hasn't been a new major sport in our country in I don't even know how many years. But I think I try and be optimistic about these type of things and what's the point and what's the thing. Maybe it's something new, maybe it's something that's been thought of for a long time. Who knows? The government keeps all these secrets from us. I think the competition aspect of it, maybe we're going to see kind of like Squid Games. We're going to see elementary games being played at the highest level. So we're going to see like jump rope, pull-ups, sit-ups, maybe put 145 pound or 135 pounds, whoever can do that the most times. I think it has, in my head, it would be something like that. Maybe it's playing recess games, as in, I don't know, you can't play kickball one-on-one. Maybe there's some team games involved, Maybe, I don't know, coach. Some high schoolers too.
Is this just going to be like a field day type of thing? Where
What is it? What we doing, coach?
Belly bumpers and I don't know. I
No.
think there's a lot of ways they can do this. Obviously, there's a lot of like really dystopian concepts you could probably come up with here, but such as a Squid Games. However, I mean, I'd like to think that hopefully it's a controlled type competition. Nothing too you really can't do physical, because I mean, actually, I guarantee you that's what a lot of the American people would like to see, controversially. But like at the same time, I just don't really I'm really curious to see how this one pans out. I really am.
They've been watching a lot of Netflix physical 100 settings, and they trying to do something like that. We don't have that. They got physical 100 on Netflix. They got the Squid Game that's based in originally Korea, and they got all these other shows on Netflix. They got a physical 100 that's all the Asian countries competing against each other. So I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe they're taking stuff off that, but who knows? But we'll see what's happening. So hopefully Missouri shows up and shows out. That's all I got to say. Missouri, we cannot get last place. Anything but last place,
Well, actually, you know what? I think that should be something we should. That's a great question here. Who is coming in last and who's coming in first? I'd like to say New Jersey is probably a front runner to do very well.
I say Texas, probably the best. Texas or Florida.
I mean,
That's
like
they got more. I don't know.
first place, I think is too much of a toss, but last place,
No, last place. I think that's
Idaho.
yeah,
What the hell's coming out of Idaho?
Wyoming maybe.
Yeah.
Wyoming. Maybe like Mississippi probably or something like that.
I don't know about Mississippi. I'd say
Rhode
like
Island, Rhode Island maybe.
Maine.
Maine's a good one.
Is a good one.
Say we got some bottom feeder picks, but the high feeder picks, that's we got a lot of quality states. We got a quality states and quality cities.
Assuming
Yeah.
that athletes are picked, we need to make a bracket and predict the winner just based off of like state biasy. I mean, or state bias. I mean, I actually do. I don't hate this idea for a few reasons. I don't like it for a few reasons, but it's controversial to say the least. And I think that it'll be very fun to cover when this does happen. We will be absolutely uploading things about this when this is coming out. But I think it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Like, this is definitely, out of everything we talked about today, I think this is the biggest gray area of what the future looks like in terms of an event. Like,
Yeah, we have no deep.
we don't know who's going to win the college football playoff, but we can make some smart predictions. Same with the NFL Super Bowl. But I mean, who the hell's winning the Hunger Games of America?
I don't know, Coach. But if whoever wins it gets to give a prize, everyone gets a stipend from the state. Come on now, I'm gonna be rooting hard. Get my Missouri flag on, or I guess New York. I don't know, whichever. I still have a Missouri license, so I guess I have to root for Missouri. But we'll see, Coach. It's gonna be interesting. I'm excited. I'm actually interested to hear more of the details on this, and I'm actually curious to see what this monument they're gonna build. Because if you heard him, he said, "I know Paris got the Eiffel Tower. United States the only country that doesn't have a defining arc, which we have the St. Louis arc." Coach, what's up with that? You disrespecting St. Louis?
I mean,
Yeah.
we got a few monumental figures or places, I could say, right? If they do have some sort of monument,
He said they're building one.
I'm just hoping it's something that creates unity, something that's not controversial. That's all I'm asking.
Yes, please.
That makes sense.
Please put like a big giant statue of Michael Jordan somewhere. Everyone likes Michael Jordan,
Well, one of
right?
those already exists outside of Bowles Arena, I believe. But or United Airlines Arena, I think it's what it's called.
Yeah, they got a statue of him, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know what the statue would be. Maybe we could get a statue of some money, the money statue or something like that. Everyone wants that.
I personally want to see a Mark Sanchez statue. I think that'd be hilarious.
Mark Sanchez, that's a great one. Or just I think Mark, the common American of getting in trouble of one way, shape, or fashion would be. But
it symbolizes, it symbolizes flaw in personality. But jokes aside, I think this video was definitely an interesting one. There's a lot of controversial things in this video we will not be covering here today, but I think of the few things we can pick from it, I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, we gonna keep our eyes and ears pinned to the streets and see what's going on with the president in these games, because there's always games being played by the government. But that's for another day. Anyways, our last little side segment is I was interested in touching on these creator awards. Now I know it is a brand new thing, but it is an award show that gives awards out to the best quote unquote online creators, as we both are ourselves, for it. And I thought it was an interesting thing. It's a TikTok awards, essentially. Keith Lee, the food. If you aren't familiar with who Keith Lee is, he's a food critic who goes to different places and tries foods and gives his opinion on the foods and restaurants and their service. And he's been popular for several years now. And I was at the TikTok awards and he won the creator of the year. So how do you feel about a food critic winning creator of the year, even though you might not have watched much of his content?
So it's actually funny, kind of inadvertently, my mom is actually a food creator and a food critic.
Oh,
So
wow.
I actually love it. I think it's great because for someone who deals with someone who is relatively well known locally where I am for what she does, I have a lot of respect for someone who's able to win it on a national stage. Being a food critic, I remember when Yelp came out and it was a very controversial thing because a lot of people would leave bad reviews, but being able to put yourself in front of a camera or, rate a place and be completely unbiased. And here's what I liked about Keith, and this is what I like about food critics in general for the most part. I'm a huge local business guy. I love my local businesses. I support them over chains any day of the week. Obviously, I love my occasional Big Mac, but here's the thing, right? There is so much good food in the world and so many businesses that are started from families and from all different backgrounds, right? People want it, food is art. And I think that Keith Lee going out there and bashing chains, bashing local restaurants. What I like about Keith Lee is I like that he's not all positives. One of the things that is very unfortunate about the food critic path as a creator is depending on the route you take, negativity can very quickly hinder your income, can hinder your gigs in terms of where you're able to go get food. Because a lot of it is most of the time when you're going to these places, you have the opportunity to eat for free, which is a big denominator for a lot of people. That's a big reason why a lot of people go into that echelon. A creator I really like out of Kentucky is Luke Foods. Kind of a more slept on creator. He's actually gone relatively big recently, but he'll go around Kentucky trying a bunch of local spots and he just does all positive reviews, which he does it in. It's like one of those, you sit in your car and you eat the meal and he's like, oh yeah, no, this is great. But I mean, what made Keith Lee special is the unbiasedness. And I think to be polarizing at what you do and not just, oh yeah, check out these cheesesteak egg rolls. They look so good. Oh, they tasted great. You got to be to people nowadays, kind of like how I said earlier, we preach authenticity. We can love and respect authenticity. And Keith Lee brings authenticity to his channel.
No, facts. I've watched his stuff during COVID. That's kind of when he started popping off. And, as a content creator myself, I've done food reviews and I've done brand deals with restaurants and places that asked me to come make a video for them. And I can't go in there and be like, the food was all right. No, I got to say it was the best food I've ever had. Shout out Citizens Us and Chelsea. And the food usually is good, but I can't be critical on anything if I didn't like it. And so that loses the transparency. Like you said, that's why he's good, because he's transparent. The best creators, for the most part, are transparent about what they're going through and what the content they're talking about is. I mean, it'd also be boring if you say everything is perfect, which some do, and some are popular because of it, which it's mostly lifestyle creators that get that perk. But yeah, no, I think it's cool, man. I think food is a difficult thing to get into, and he found a unique way to do it. At first, when I saw his videos, I didn't like it because I felt like he was putting on an act. But after some time passed, I was like, okay, he's actually being very unbiased about his opinions and being very truthful about, and then also bringing revenue into these small businesses too. That was the biggest thing. And so, shout out Keith Lee. I'm kind of surprised he won it outside of all these other creators. I knew he was big, but I didn't know he was that big.
I didn't really see him winning that over some other names. I feel like with
the other finalists were comedian Adam Waheed, which I've never heard of him, lifestyle influencers Kirsty Sarah, Alex Earl, who I have heard of, Brooke Monk. So I'm surprised.
Monk. I mean, but I haven't really watched any of these creators. I mean, then again, my niches are maybe a little different. But the food creator one, I do see a little bit of that because it's something I do technically work with every day. And I mean, the biggest thing about a food creator winning it is I think this is actually pretty big because it shows that, you could find your niche, but you're not only tailored to a niche. And I mean, food is definitely not necessarily a small niche because, I mean, you eat food every day. I mean, I think, there are more and more people every day looking for new restaurants to go to, and that's part of the appeal behind Keith Lee. But at the same time, being able to okay, let me back up. Let me speak English here. Being able to encapsulate your personality into your content, being able to make yourself stand out by being polarizing. I know I've said this before, but he was technically an underdog in this scenario. A lot of these content creators who are probably finalists are more popular per se for makeup or for fashion, right? Like things that kind of are more top heavy. And once you're at the top of that chain, you have a very firm grip over that control. So I like that the committee went for something where the everyday person, this is a niche, a subject that impacts everybody, but it's also not as serious as per se like politics or war, right? Like it's food. It's something that makes people smile. That's why I think it's a smash winner. I really like Keith Lee winning this.
Yeah, shout out Keith Lee, man. He took that. Shout out to other people too, even though, we're not 100%, well, I'm not familiar with their game and the lifestyle stuff. I don't really follow no lifestyle creators. I got to live my own life. I can't watch you. I got enough things to worry about. But that was it. That was all our topics. It was great. It was a great first episode. It went a little long, but that's okay. Because as we just talked about authenticity, we going through the same kind of authentic creative trials and tribulations that anybody would go through. So we keeping it 100 with y'all. But anyway, y'all, I appreciate y'all joining. This was amazing. I had a great time with Jacob. It's only going to be better and better and better and better and better from here. And thank y'all for tuning in. If you made it this far, you a real one.
Absolutely. If you made it this far, subscribe to both of our channels, like the video, drop your thoughts in the comment section below. If you have any differentiating takes, if you have any opinions, we love feedback from anyone and everybody, positive or negative. We keep it real here, and we're going to be pushing out more content. So we love things to talk about.
Facts, man. Facts. Well, look forward to the game. Oh yeah, last thing. We got to give our prediction on the game tonight. The game tonight is the Colts and the the Colts. The who?
Niners.
The 49ers. I got the 49ers winning this game. Phillip Rivers, his nice cute story and whatnot, but cute stories don't win the NFL in the NFL all the time. So give me the 49ers. 28 to 17.
I'm taking the 49ers as well. I'm taking them 21-14.
And we all on the 49ers. Well, y'all, till next time, y'all, we out of here. Peace, blessings, deuces, and have a great rest of your day. We out here.